Hey, Brian.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, what's up, man?
Look.
What is that? What is that pagan symbol? What are you doing with that pagan symbol? I thought you were a Christian.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah, that's okay. It looks different, but that's okay.
You want the chat? I mean, because I can go like this. Look, I can go like this.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, if we could
But
do that.
I gotta go live first. I gotta go live, then maximize the screen. Because here's the live button here. You know.
Oh yeah.
So once I
So
go live,
really quick, we're live at the Cryptids panel, and this is really exciting. I'm super excited to be a guest live streamer here, and I'm filming a short vlog on it as well. But yeah, we're about to go on, so I'm gonna turn it around.
You want to do an intro?
Yeah, go ahead and do your. Go ahead and start your live.
Okay, we're live. Good.
So I highlighted if I encounter I'm going to get additional.
Everybody just go ahead and quickly test your mics. I did test them before, but we'll go ahead
Testing,
and continue.
Hello? Hello? Just say Jeff. You can hear.
We're going to do our best to make sure we're talking into the mics today. That's some people. Can you test your microphone?
All right, tested.
All right, sounds great.
Who's the old guy?
Which one? Kidding.
That's Steve-O.
Okay, here we go. Is everybody ready? You all ready? All right. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for coming out to the Bethel Park Public Library. I am the moderator and producer of today's event, and my name is Christine Solstice of Solstice Night Sky Productions. First, I would like to extend a special thank you to the library, and most certainly to Rob Koch-Thaler for his tremendous help with these events. Is Rob in here now? I think he was going to come around his lunch break, but if you want to do a little clap for that. I would also like to extend a special thank you to our panel sponsor, Tiffany Apan. We have Tiffany right here. She is a singer and songwriter in the Gothic and Celtic music realm and an author of Gothic and fantasy fiction. She is also a podcaster, paranormal and history enthusiast, and an actress. Her work can be found on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and her website, thegothiccelt.com. Tiffany is also a guest live stream today on today's panel, and the YouTube channel that she is live streaming from is YouTube at Tiffany After Hours. We're going to do another special thank you to our sponsor, Jonathan Stiffy. Jonathan, where are you at? There we go. Jonathan was also a sponsor for the Alien Abduction Panel this past November of 2025. Jonathan is a local MUFON field investigator with a passion for the unknown. All right, now these panel events were held about 13 years ago at a different bookstore venue. I see some of you in the audience today that were there 13 years ago. Could you please raise your hand if you were here over a decade ago? David? Tiffany? Well, thank you so much, and it's good to see you here again. Now, these panels were revived in 2025, and the first was in March of 2025, which encompassed life on other planets, aliens, UFOs, drone technology, and artificial intelligence. Then there was a panel on alien abduction stories, dimensions, and interplanetary beings in November of 2025. Today, we will move into what is considered a different form of creatures known as cryptids. What is a cryptid, you may ask? The dictionary definition of a cryptid, according to Oxford Online, is that a cryptid is an animal whose existence or survival is considered to be disputed or unsubstantiated. Some definitions have been updated to reference a cryptid as either an animal or a being, which would be more accurate. In the first definition, you will see that the definition had referred to a cryptid as an animal, which would make it flesh and blood. Is a cryptid really an animal or something else entirely? We will go into this today. It is likely our limited understanding and human perspective that causes us to define them as an animal while not actually knowing what a cryptid is. Now, today's panel consists of a dynamic group of individuals who will be sharing their knowledge and experiences. You will see that part of the event is in person and part of the panel is under live stream on the screen up above, thanks to Robert Khalil over here of Typical Skeptic Podcast. We'd also like to thank BPTV back in the corner back there for coming in to film today. Now, if you are not familiar with how a panel works, it will be a series of questions, and each individual panelist has an opportunity to provide their own intelligent and creative response. We will also have time for audience questions, especially at the end. Please note that at the end of this panel, the panelists will have items for sale, and there are some Bigfoot casts over there. So please stop by, peruse, and grab some business cards and merchandise. Now, we have two talented individuals on photography today who you will see running around. They are Ryan O'Shea over here and Kathleen Wilson over here. For the panel, we were supposed to have our dear friend Fred Saluga present. He had 60 years of knowledge in many aspects of both ufology and cryptozoology. Unfortunately, Fred left us too soon, and we are saving a seat for him down here at the end. At the very end of this panel, we will have an open memorial for anyone who would like to say a few words to honor Fred. For now, let's just take a quick, brief moment of silence for Fred. Thank you. Now let's go ahead and get started with a one-by-one introduction of each of our panelists. Our team today consists of Steve Ward on the video screen up here above, and then in person we have Brian Seach, Robert Solomon, and Jamie and Jenny King. Each of them will tell you a little bit about themselves before we begin with questions. We're going to go ahead and start with Brian Seach. Brian, please tell us about yourself.
Yes, hi, I'm Brian Seach. I run two investigative groups with my wife, Terry. We're co-founders of the Center for Unexplained Events, which we're actually celebrating our 40th year of investigating this year. So we're proud of it. Terry runs these groups, believe me, I just kind of hang out. So without her, we wouldn't have done this for 40 years. Our other group is the Center for Cryptozoological Studies, which we formed in 2012.
Terry, do you want to go ahead and raise your hand so everyone knows who he's referencing? Okay, go ahead, Jamie.
So my name is Jamie King, and this is my wife, Jenny. Jenny and I had a Bigfoot encounter shortly after my father died in 2009, and our life changed in a huge way. So we started a micro-study group in Mercer County, Pennsylvania, that studies and looks for evidence of Bigfoot. So that's how we got our start in that. And then we started looking at if we can believe in Bigfoot, then we started doing Dr. Stephen Greer's SETI. So we studied his protocol and we kind of do our own thing with that. Like, we don't follow his protocol completely, but for us, that's what we do, is we look for evidence of UFOs and ET contact, and we've had some really super interesting things. The other thing we've done is now we started researching Fae, and we go out and we build little Fae things and we interact with the Fae as much as we can, and we try to document with photographs, and we've actually captured some pretty cool things that are subjective, but to us they could be Bigfoot. I'll pass it on to my wife.
Okay, Jenny King.
Hello, I'm Jenny, and he said most of probably what I was going to say. So what I will say is that he didn't say is we met each other when we were 10 years old. So we've known each other most of our lives. And we actually got into the paranormal in 2004, was when we very first got into anything dealing with paranormal. And then, like he said, in 2009, we got more into Bigfoot and then SETI, extraterrestrials. And I've been having fun the whole entire time.
All right, and then Robert Solomon.
I am the, excuse me, I am the host of This Uncanny Earth. It's a podcast on YouTube. We talk about literally everything. My main areas of subject are the Middle East, grimoires, giants, biblical history, Islamic history, you name it. Anything that goes on in the Middle East, I am a big fan of. I'm also a big fan of space. The Artemis 2, loved watching it, loved watching them come back, glad they're safe. And I'm into pretty much everything cryptid wise, and I want to know why things are the way they are. So that's me.
Okay. Well, thank you all for that. As you can see, we have a qualified group of individuals here. Now, each panelist has a specific cryptid that they're going to represent today, which was chosen on both based on knowledge and their own preference for that particular being. Now, we'll go ahead and we will start with, actually, we skipped Steve Ward. Oh my God. Steve.
That's all right. I'm for eye candy anyway, so.
Sorry.
And back in March of 1966, I was living in Michigan, junior high school. We had a major UFO flap where the Air Force dispatched Dr. J. Allen Hynek to check things out. And he suggested that some of them might be swamp gas. So that became famous throughout the decades. A few months later, a winged humanoid, dubbed later Mothman, chased two couples down Route 62 out of the TNT area, what they call the TNT area, north of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And I actually live on that road now where the two couples were chased by the winged humanoid. I have I've been following the Mothman for years, came down and got involved with the Mothman Festival. I worked at the Mothman Museum, and I'm a follower of John Keel, who tended to put a lot of these things together and connect the dots. So thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Steve. And I'm so sorry for that. I'm going to make up for it by letting you go first. So as mentioned, they all do have their own particular cryptids to represent. So what they're going to do is they're going to go ahead and give us some information on that cryptid, its habits, if known, when it was first sighted, and things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and read off the first question, and Steve will go ahead and start with you once I'm done. Steve, please name your cryptid. Can you please share the history, habits, and the historical tale associated with this creature?
I'm sorry, did you call on me?
Oh, yeah.
Frankly, I'm having a little trouble with the microphones up there. The voice is distorted, so you may have to speak louder and look at me very crossly to get me to answer.
Oh, okay.
Could you please repeat the question if you were asking me a question?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry that you're unable to hear us as well. We'll make sure we get that fixed. I don't know if Robert can do anything now, but we'll go ahead and fix that for the future. Yeah, Steve, please name your cryptid. Can you please share the history, habits, and the historical tale associated with this creature?
Okay, I'm sorry, Christine. I'm really not hearing you clearly.
Can you,
Yeah, turn the mic up. That's about the best we can do.
So it's aliens doing it.
I know. I figured we have so much electronic stuff going on. I figured we were gonna just zap everything. Steve, can you hear me?
That's better, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so Steve, please, this is the first question. Please name your cryptid. Can you please share the history, habits, and the historical tale associated with this creature?
This entity, or whatever you want to call it, the first major sighting was on November 15th, 1966. It wasn't the first sighting, but that's when the famous sighting when two couples were chased out of what they dubbed the TNT area, which used to be a place where they made explosives for World War II, chased two couples down Route 62. And they went to the police station. Their report hit the wire services all over the world, even before Mothman had a proper name. And the thing with the Mothman is that I'm not even sure it's a cryptid per se. A cryptid is a flesh and blood creature that is simply unknown or undocumented. This thing seemed to have very bizarre properties. If you go and listen to the experiencers, you'll find that in some cases it manifested out of nowhere. People had missing time. Many people experienced poltergeist phenomena. Some people saw it in conjunction with strange lights in the sky. So, and John Keel, who I'm definitely a follower of, seemed to think that it's for extraterrestrial, but a natural condition of the planet and perhaps something temporal. And that's kind of the page I'm on. It did seem to be paraphysical. It seemed to be physical at times. It's very, very hard to categorize whatever this was. But it never harmed anybody. It scared the hell out of a few people. Many people think it was a harbinger leading up to the Silver Bridge collapse 13 months later. So the way you try and determine what the Mothman was is to talk to the credible witnesses, and I've spoken to many of them. I know they experienced something extraordinary, but I honestly don't know what it was. I tend to think, again, that Mothman is probably not a proper cryptid, probably not an undocumented creature that has simply been hiding in West Virginia all these years.
Well, thank you so much. Now, I did notice that before they would, and can you hear me okay first, please?
Yes.
So what I noticed was the original definition of a cryptid had it listed as an animal, being that flesh and blood. But now they've updated that definition, if you look at some of the dictionary definitions, as a being. So could it still fall under that of a cryptid with that definition?
I'm sorry, say again, please.
They recently updated the definition of a cryptid to kind of say that it's not, it could be more than an animal,
Okay.
It could be a being. So if we had that definition, could it still fall under that category of a cryptid?
Possibly. I think I almost like Barton Nunley's description. He calls these things inhumanoids. He doesn't call them cryptids per se. Again, very hard to categorize what this thing was. So I hardly, I'm not speaking as an authority. Many people will disagree, but we could put it under that broad category, I'm sure. But it did, there's something, John Keel talked about transmogrifications of energy. Again, something temporal. He thought these things had a temporary existence. They would leave footprints. And some of these cryptids or whatever would actually attack animals and then just sort of evaporate. Some people suggest that some of these things are interdimensional. They're flesh and blood. They simply disappear elsewhere and then show up again. Others, like Ron Moorhead, suggest that they're something more ethereal and sort of manifest on our plane of existence. That's kind of where I am. But, however we define cryptid, Mothman remains an enigma.
Certainly, thank you so much for that. Now we're going to go ahead on to Brian Seach. Brian, could you please name your cryptid? And can you please share the history, habits, and a historical tale associated with this creature?
Yes, of course, everybody who knows me knows it's going to be Bigfoot, right? He is right, Jeff? He's the pop cultural icon. He's the #1 cryptid. He even has his own beef jerky, right? He can't be beat. He's like the Godzilla of cryptids. That's for some person right over there. I have to have a Godzilla reference, sorry. That's my Godzilla reference. So basically the term Bigfoot was used in 1958 in the Humboldt County Times. There was reports of a series of large mysterious footprints, found in the Bluff Creek area. Previously, they talked about Sasquatch. Many North American cultures had Sasquatch in their lore. They talked about it, some being a spiritual being, some others being a physical type creature. You're basically talking about a 6 to 8 foot tall, ape-like creature covered in hair, extremely shy, extremely elusive. We have sightings of it in basically every state in the U.S. Here in Pennsylvania, we have a rich history of sightings of Bigfoot. And also on our table over there, I know you can't see it, but we have 3 casts that we believe are from Bigfoot creatures. One of the best ones we have there is one from Allegheny County, 1974, where this Bigfoot creature was looking at a Christmas tree. It was 4 days after Christmas, and Bigfoot likes Christmas like everybody else, right? So the two young boys looked out and they saw this like 7 foot tall ape-like creature looking at the Christmas tree. There was a local group, Paul Johnson's group. They actually they called Paul's group in, and they came in the next early that morning, and they casted that print. We also have, and I would like to thank Chadwick Gates for bringing his Chad back there. He brought a. Is there two over there? Because I think.
Yeah, there's 3 in one case and one like a half cast in the other.
Okay, and so these were taken in Fayette County. They were taken in Fayette County. They're a series of 3-toed prints. And if you once we're done here, if you guys definitely go over there and take a look at them because they're pretty. You're not going to see prints like that. Now, Jamie and Jenny, they also have a several pictures of.
It's a cast. It was a cast that the Dogman community jumped on and said that it was a Dogman print. I don't think there's very many Dogman prints in existence, but they jumped on and said that that's what they thought it was. But to me, it was a huge print, and then it looked like a canine.
And again, that's the Dogman phenomenon, which we can probably get into later, but that's basically a canine-like creature standing between 6 and 8 foot tall. And I hate to say it, but it looks like a Hollywood werewolf. You guys know what the Hollywood werewolves are like, and this thing looks just like one. I'm not saying somebody got bit by a wolf and changed into a Dogman. I think some of these creatures, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, they could be some kind of an interdimensional type creature. And I know if you call yourself, quote unquote, a cryptozoologist like we do, they don't like that. We're talking about flesh and blood animals with cryptozoology. But who's to say that somehow these creatures can't, say, using portals or somehow that we don't know about, pop into our existence and then pop out? We just don't know with a lot of these cryptids we're going to be talking about today. And please, we don't really know. We can conjecture all we want. Hey, this thing's a giant ape in the woods. It's a North American primate. We don't know what they are. We really don't. Even the so-called experts out there, they, I guess I'm too loud.
No, not you.
Steve said he could hear you very well. He couldn't hear for Steve as well.
Or Jamie. Jamie's talking.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely want Steve to hear about Bigfoot. That is Steve's, really, that's his passion. That's his favorite cryptid. He can talk about Mothman all he wants, but he knows that Bigfoot's his favorite, right, Steve?
There might be a brawl.
I just want to hear Brian loud and clear in case he hurls any insults my way.
There you go.
So is anybody having trouble hearing my mic? No issue? Okay.
It's not yours, but everybody else.
You can hear me or no? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's good.
Whenever I've done a couple of presentations and Steve has been there, we always ask who would win in the fight, Bigfoot or Mothman. Practically every time Bigfoot wins, right, Steve?
Well, you've distorted that a little bit. I was on indulge me for a moment. I was getting one of the tours in the TNT area, and I spotted, this is before I really knew Brian and Terry very well, but I spotted some Bigfooters, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have some fun. So I thought, I said, instead of my regular spiel, I said, the only legitimate paranormal researchers are Mothman researchers. Bigfoot researchers are a bunch of backbencher wannabes. Well, a few of them knew who I was and knew I was full of it. I saw Dave Rupert. Is Dave Rupert there today?
No.
No. He was looking at me. He did not know me. He was looking at me like, am I going to mess him up now or later? Anyway, the people that knew me knew I was having some fun. Bruce Harrington was next to me, and I said, hey, Bruce, look at that. I go, so-and-so and so-and-so. He said, Steve, the whole cart was full of Bigfoot researchers. You just insulted everybody.
That was a good day for you, Steve, huh?
But they all came back next year for more insults, so it worked out.
And who knows, Steve, you may see one of your favorite Bigfoot researchers speaking this year. Just saying. One quick little story about the Mothman. So Terry, myself, And our friend Leo over there went down to try to do some frequency testing. I think it was now maybe 3 years ago at the igloos in the TNT area. So we were having problems with our machine working, so I left to get a charger to recharge it. And I'm walking towards the car, and I look to my left, and I see 2 red eyes looking at me. And I said out loud, I said, "You got to be kidding me." I looked, I'm looking, they didn't move. I went one way, they seemed to move, I went the other way. Someone had stuck 2 reflectors on a tree in the back. And I was like, wow. Now I know what would happen if I actually start walking toward it like a, dummy. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun with Steve down there, and we'll be seeing you this year, Steve, and have some more fun.
West by God, Virginia.
West by God, Mothman is West Virginia's cryptid, because we now live in West Virginia.
Well, thank you all for that. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Jamie. Jamie, please name your cryptid, and if you could please share the history, habits, and a historical tale associated with your creature.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about one of my favorites, and it was one of my favorites from when I was little, was the Loch Ness Monster. But I'm taking the version that's closer to us, which is Bessie, and Bessie is said to be seen on Lake Erie, and I had to go in and look at all of this stuff while I was researching and figure out the difference between Bessie and Nessie and the other cryptids that exist in North America that are serpent-type creatures. And what I found was that indigenous tribes all along Lake Erie all had names for this, and all of the names were very similar. It was, I looked to look at the notes, Mesha Beishu. And Mesha Beishu is pronounced differently by the different tribes, but they all had the similar meaning. And the meaning was serpents in indigenous tribes was usually a symbol of foreboding of something that was going to happen, or it was a guardian of the waters, guardian of the land. And that's basically what Bessie was. Then it kind of hit me that Bessie and Nessie, their names, so I wanted to check into how they got their names. So Nessie was named in 1933 after a sighting at Loch Ness in Scotland, and Bessie was named in 1991. So the name Nessie Bessie sounds the same, it rhymes, but then I looked into it, and Bessie was basically named after a nuclear power plant off of Lake Erie, which a lot of people look into it like, is this some kind of cryptid that is like a deformed thing, or because of radiation that might be in the water? But when you look at the indigenous tribes, they all have their own theory about what it is. And for me, it goes back to the French in 1793. The French explorers came and they had sightings of this creature that came onto land and left scales on the shorelines of Lake Erie. And Bessie basically is found on the north shore of Erie, so like around Ashtabula, Ohio, and Toledo. And some of the sightings have been in Lake Erie in Pennsylvania, so that's where they are with Bessie. I'm calling her she, but basically was described by the Native Americans as having a horn, like a narwhal, and sometimes 2 horns, sometimes 1 horn, but the most modern descriptions give it like a dog-like face, like a porpoise, and it has flippers. And it's described to be like anywhere between 25 to 30 feet long. And some of the most recent reports came out of the Ashtabula area. And what they say about it is that it's leaving like a wake as it moves through the water. And people have videotaped this, people have photographs of it. They've even, there's a researcher on YouTube that I found was actively researching, like going out into the field and looking for Bessie. And some of the misidentifications would be that it's driftwood. And it's very similar to what you would find at Loch Ness. And I think the main researcher that's researching Nessie in Scotland has kind of backed off and said that they don't believe that it's real. And I had to look at the difference between the lake itself. So Lake Erie, I'm going to go to my notes, is 210 miles long and 57 miles wide. Loch Ness is 23 miles long and only 1.7 miles across. The depth of the lakes are quite a bit different. So Lake Erie is 210 feet deep, while Loch Ness, being smaller, is 745 feet deep. So if you're looking at it on a physical level, like a lot of people have compared it to the Paleosaurus, which Paleosaurus has been found on every continent in the world, mainly in Europe, but in the United States they've been found where the glaciers have come down through, so they'll find it in Nebraska and parts of Texas. But of all the research that I did, I've never found one that was found on the shores of Lake Erie. But that's if you're looking at it on a physical level. If you're looking at it on a spiritual level, I would say that the indigenous tribes, you would look into what they have to say about it. And for me, that's how I approach a lot of my research, is looking at the physical, also looking at the spiritual. So that's pretty much what I have to say about Bessie. But I've always loved Bessie as a kid, and now we have Bessie on Lake Erie. So if you're ever at Lake Erie in Ohio or Pennsylvania, keep your eye out.
Well, thank you so much for that. I think one of the most fascinating things, I like sea creatures. We don't hear about a lot of them, but I think one of the most fascinating things was hearing that, they might actually leave their scales on the beach like that. That's a good thing to keep your eye out for if you see any big, huge scales on the beach. All right, we'll go ahead on to Jenny. Jenny, please name your cryptid, and if you could please share the history, habits, and the historical tale associated with the creature.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. The cryptid that I chose was the pukwudgie, and I know it's a lesser known cryptid. Many of you probably don't even know what a pukwudgie is. I didn't even know what a pukwudgie was until I started researching it, because I think it's fascinating and I think it would be absolutely adorable. So the history of the pukwudgie goes back 9,000 years. Most of the sightings are in Massachusetts, with some in Indiana, and around the Great Lakes regions. I'm going to talk about the Wampanoag. It's a tribe in Massachusetts that work closely with the pukwudgie, and they got along quite well with them. The pukwudgie itself is only 2 to 3 feet tall. It has gray, smooth skin. It has enlarged ears, nose, and feet. It's said to perhaps have red glowing eyes or green glowing eyes. It has quills on its back or along its spine, kind of like a porcupine or a hedgehog. Something else that I thought was interesting about the pukwudgie is that it has a floral scent. People say that it has a floral scent and a sweet smell, which is probably better than some cryptids, just saying.
Oh, yeah.
The pukwudgie has many adorable abilities. It's a shapeshifter, so it can turn into a cougar or a fox or a rabbit. It can also conjure fire and poison arrows. It has the ability to be invisible, and it also cloaks itself if it's in danger and wants to not be seen. It is also called a trickster and has glamour magic. And one of the ways it can do this is that it can create balls of light, like an orb. One of the things I love about the pukwudgie, and I think it's one of the reasons I picked it, was because it loves the forest. It loves all the animals, the woods, and it's very protective of where it lives in the forest and everything in it. And it will be respectful to those that are kind to the forest. If you are not kind to the forest, it's not going to like you very much. Some of the things that the pukwudgie might do to you, if you are being disrespectful, is it will cause confusion or maybe even insanity. It has been known to attack villages and kidnap children, set people on fire, push them off of cliffs. Yeah. So
Violent.
there you go.
Violent little guy.
So you might want to say you don't want to go against the quills, if you will, of a pukwudgie.
Well, thank you so much. And what I found so fascinating about when we chose the pukwudgie was the fire element. Is that, today we have earth, we have air, we have fire and water, and that's it's not usual for a cryptid, I think, to display something with fire.
Very fascinating as well.
Yeah. So Mothman, we have air. Bigfoot, we have earth. And then we have, Bessie, water, Puckwudgie fire. And then
We got it going on.
I know we do, but we have one more very interesting element to go through here as well. Okay, we're gonna go ahead on to Robert Solomon. Robert, if you could please name your cryptid, and you could please share the history, habits, and historical tale associated with that creature.
So Brian over there said that Bigfoot was the Godzilla of the cryptid world. I have the King Ghidorah of the cryptid world, and that would be the flat. Is the end all be all. Greatest cryptid ever, and I will tell you folks why. So on September 12th of 1952, Ed and Freddie Mae and their friend Tommy Hare were all doing what kids do, goofing around, when they saw a large object go across the sky and crash where it would be Fisher's Farm. Well, they go back and they grab their mom. Hey, Mom, let's go on an adventure. So Kathleen May ends up rounding up a couple other people, Neil Nunley, Ronnie Shaver, and Eugene Lemon. Now, the reason I have a particular interest in this is because I'm related to the Mays and Eugene Lemon. I know Gasaway like the back of my hand, I know Sutton like the back of my hand, and I know Flatgates like the back of my hand. I've been to Fisher's Farm, but I haven't. If anybody's asked if I've ever been there, you've never seen me there, and you've never, where the wreckage was, they smelled a very pungent odor, and outside of this wreckage came a creature that is called the Flatwoods Green Monster. Red orange face with a hood that looked like the Ace of Spades. Now this creature started darting towards them. Now obviously, when they shone the flashlight on it, seeing this thing coming head on, red eyes, the whole nine, they darted. Of course you're gonna leave, you're not gonna stand there and fight him. Maybe if you're Brian, because he goes towards the red eyes. He goes towards the red eyes. So what happens, they leave and they go through town and they spread all this information and they say, hey, this, that, and the third. Well, army trucks come in and they take the wreckage away. Nothing to see here. Later on, people thought it was a barn owl. That's a popular theory that's gone around. Me personally, I believe it was what it was, an extraterrestrial. You had this is post-atomic era, and if we go into files and we go into history, we'll see that post-atomic era US had a plethora of UFO sightings. This wasn't something that just all of a sudden, now we're seeing more UFOs. It's because of the nuclear arsenals and things, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Bikini Atoll, that got something's attention. Because now you're starting to see UFOs, and it doesn't help that, 1950 science fiction, some of the best science fiction in the world, even if it is just the UFO that you can see the string dangling off of. Sort of played into all of that. You saw a lot of UFOs, you saw a lot of people coming forward, and as we move forward, you see a lot of people coming forward. Now, the reason I find this to be so fascinating is because there's also a second sighting that isn't talked about very much of a similar creature in Frametown. Now, Frametown, West Virginia, is probably, I want to say maybe 20 minutes down 79, like you're going towards Charleston. I could be off by my timing. But it was seen there as well. This creature, this being, the reason I find it so fascinating is A, the Army comes in and takes away the wreckage. Show up, put stuff on a truck, roll it out. Anytime somebody shows up to take something away, you have to question it, much like the Smithsonian with giant skeletons. Well, that's another topic for another time. And the fact that the alien was also not the real alien, so to speak. It was said that this alien was actually housed in almost like a mech suit, for anybody here that knows what Gundam is. Basically like a pilot, if you will. And the creature sustained damage. Once again, all of it was taken away, probably studied. If you ask somebody, it's probably in a file somewhere on Area 51. It's somewhere. But for me, yeah, the fact that there was two sightings and supposedly a third, but I haven't got to discuss with that person if that third sighting is an actual fact. or if it's just hoopla. So there's two. Everybody knows about the flatwoods on the Fisher's Farm, but not a lot of people know about the Framingham sighting. So something to look into.
Thank you so much for that. And, I think we could probably say that the Flatwoods Monster is one of those ones that is a borderline extraterrestrial cryptid. What is he? So that's kind of the question we have there with him. So we do have such a unique little group of cryptids that were chosen for today's panel. Now, I do have an unofficial question, and not all of the panelists have to answer this. But there's one thing that I noticed is that there are some representations of Bigfoot where they literally have his teeth sticking out like a saber-toothed cat. Now, panelists, any one of you can choose to answer that. Would that be sort of a misrepresentation of what this creature looks like? Because that's not how he normally looks. It seems to be like more of a modern day thing where they're making these like stuffed animals with teeth just protruding from his mouth. It's kind of more of a terrifying look, if you ask me. Does anybody have any input on that?
I do.
Okay.
From how I feel is I think they don't have saber-toothed teeth. A lot of witnesses that Jamie and I have talked to that have seen their teeth say they're more like human teeth. So, I don't know, for me that just doesn't make sense. And something else that I thought of was Bigfoot is known to whistle. So can it whistle with those big teeth?
Good point.
So I don't know, just something I was thinking about.
Okay, thank you so much. Did anybody else have anything to add to that one? Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think it's more of a misrepresentation ourselves. We've only had one actually sighting that was close enough that the person actually saw the teeth. And they were like more like a human, but a lot bigger, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Wait, did your daughter ask that question?
Absolutely. Every single time. And I try not to talk about my daughter on any of these things because this is my, private, that's my private life. But I do want to mention that is something that my daughter, she got a Bigfoot stuffed animal and said, why is its teeth sticking out? Like it looked like a vampire. It did. That didn't seem right. So I was like, okay, let's ask that. All right, did anybody else have anything on that? Steve, I'm not sure if you can hear us.
I'm sure you directed that to me, but you're sounding distorted again. I'm sorry.
Did you want to ask him, Brian, if he had anything?
Maybe if for some reason Brian's voice and microphone carries, just to direct the question over to Brian.
Yeah, that's
and make sure he doesn't change it or distort it to embarrass him.
He might. Go ahead.
yeah, do you think Mothman with his big teeth? No, just.
That Mothman is what?
She asked basically if some of the representations of Bigfoot with sharp teeth coming out of their mouth, if that's true or just a misrepresentation.
I'm sorry, Brian, could you please say that again?
So there are some that show misrepresentations of Bigfoot with sharp teeth. What do you think about that?
With the hoaxes?
Oh no, we haven't gotten to there yet. We'll go ahead. It's okay. We'll just go ahead on to the next. Just tell him it's okay not to worry about.
It's okay, Steve. We won't worry about that.
I did want to make a point to this. I have to ask, when they showed the snarling teeth, did they take into account other countries' Bigfoots like the Yeti or anything of that nature? Because I feel like, yes, we can sit here and say that maybe the Bigfoot doesn't have those, but I have to leave room for something else to exist in that. Somebody had to sit down and say, you know what, let's do the protruding. They had to get the protruding teeth from something. They had to pull it from something. And I have to wonder if there's not a legend out there or a folk tale maybe in Southeast Asia, because we tend to stick Bigfoot in the United States, maybe a little bit of Europe, and we just base it there. And I don't hear enough talk about Southeast Asian, China, any of the Middle East aspects of this, because I think in order to gain a full understanding of Bigfoot, you have to go in regions that we might not know much about to get a broad spectrum of like, oh, so in this culture, he does have those teeth, but in ours, he doesn't have those teeth.
Well,
Just
the
my
Yeti has sometimes been said to have teeth that are sticking out. And what I forgot to mention is these ape-like creatures are seen all over the world. It's not just North America. Canada, I mean, you've got the Yeren in China. You've got the Yowie in Australia. The Yowie is what I can say, a Bigfoot with an attitude. You don't want to mess with the Yowie.
You don't want to mess
That's
with anything in
Australia.
Australia.
I know.
Have any of you ever heard of the Gugway?
Yeah,
No,
yes.
what-
Yeah, there's some native tribes that say they used to fight with them. They had sharp, fangy teeth and were pretty.
I mean,
nasty.
actually, too,
Yeah.
with the Allegheny National Forest, they said that they had teeth. They also said that they were closed.
Okay, so
Mm.
for me,
They
okay.
would roll in pine sap, and then they'd roll like they rub up against trees to get pine sap on them, and they'd roll in like gravel and dirt and rocks, and it would like coat them like armor, I guess.
The other thing is primates all have the same dental formula as humans, so they have just the spacing of their teeth is different, and they would use their teeth, the primates would use their teeth for tearing and fighting and pulling away bark. So, I mean, if you wanted to compare Bigfoot to that, I mean, they probably could have sharper teeth, but I wouldn't say saber tooth.
Oh, certainly, and that's what, that, to me, that seemed prehistoric, a really ancient being if that was how they would look. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on to the next question, but this time we're gonna reverse order. So we will start with Robert Solomon. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do a quick intro to the question. Now, many times you will hear that cryptids have extra, oh, I'm so sorry. Many times you will hear people tie cryptids to extraterrestrial origins rather than being a separate type of species. Many cryptids in general are described as having glowing eyes. There are theories that cryptids may also travel through dimensions, which is why there is not much physical evidence regarding their existence. There are other theories that cryptids are the result of scientific laboratory experimentation or an unnatural gene mutation. Even other theories are that some cryptids are prehistoric dinosaurs, think Loch Ness Monster. There are many cryptids, so this question may even require a personalized response per cryptid. And the question is, panelists, starting with Robert Solomon, where do you think cryptids come from and what are they? What are some of your thoughts and theories?
So as a person who absolutely loves ancient history, that's my favorite kind of history, like Egyptian, Sumerian, Mesopotamian. You have legends of things like Lakshmi. They call them demons, mind you. But if we put this in the form of, okay, if you see a cryptid, you're going to think that's not of this world. Some people might say it's extraterrestrial. Some people might say it's a demon. However, but that's like Jamie said, we need to start looking through things in a different lens. And I think that, and it's because of Jamie Ellen, I want to point out that we talked about Bigfoot being, you put your phone inside of a Bigfoot's teepee, I guess would be the only way I could describe it, and you get signal. You take it out, you don't get bars anywhere else in the forest. So that screams some interesting aspects to me regarding cryptid origins. I think some of them are part of what I call the pre-industrialization era of the world. You have a lot of Fey folk that are present during these pre-industrializations. Then once all these cities and these factories are built, it pushes everything to the borders of that society because you can't exist around a bunch of humans. We will probably try to hunt you, or in this day and age, try to get a picture with you as an influencer, something wild, because we're wild like that. So to see that, and then as we progress technological wise, it seems like we push all these cryptids to the fringes of our areas. But you have so many things like the Flatwoods Ring Monster. You have Chestnut Ridge, where Bigfoot was supposed to be seen with extraterrestrials. So I think it's an amalgam of things per cryptid. Like the Mothman, for instance. The Mothman's an interesting one because it's more of a creature. It's not like a Bigfoot. It's not like a Loch Ness. That is more nature driven. Sea monsters, yes. I 100% believe sea monsters exist. They didn't think the giant squid existed, then they found out that the giant squid did in fact exist. Look at octopus. They're the coolest animal ever. So for me, I think these creatures, it's an amalgam. You can't place them all in the extraterrestrial aspect, because then the Bigfoot scientific community will say, well, wait, we don't see a lot of that. You can't say it's 100% nature, because then Chestnut Ridge, you have incidents where Bigfoot and extraterrestrials are friends, so to speak. So I think it depends on the cryptid, and you have to formulate that. You have to have characteristics for it. Okay, did it get out of the spaceship? It's probably an extraterrestrial, or at least friendly to extraterrestrials. Is it something that's talked about in different books? How the gentleman over here said Native American tribes, which is another interesting aspect, because I've read accounts of the Bigfoot actually helping these Native American tribes against other Native American tribes. And we go back further, Native Americans fought giants. Are giants cryptid as well? Do we have that conversation too? So I think it's an amalgam. You can't just place them in one category and say they came from nature only, because then you're ruling out a big chunk of the other cryptids that people have seen, like dog.
Okay, thank you for that, Robert. Now we're gonna go ahead on to Jenny. Did you need me to read the question?
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think how I feel about cryptids or creatures or being is some of them can absolutely be extraterrestrials from another solar system, galaxy, planet, what have you. I don't think all of them came from Earth. I do think some of them are Earth-based and started here on Earth. I think the Pukwudgie is one of them. I think the Pukwudgie is related to the Fae, or is actually a I'm sorry, a Fae being. So yeah, and I did want to bring up that the Pukwudgie also fought giants, just to say that. The Pukwudgie is also another one that fought giants.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
But yes, I do think that they can find portals, or they're interdimensional, or they can hop on a craft and go to different places, different locations, even on the Earth or outside of the Earth. But I do believe that some of them may be Earth-based, and that's just where they are. And but they be Earth-based, but still be invisible or do the cloaking.
Thank you for that, Jenny. Now, Jamie, did you need me to read the question off for you?
No, I think I got it. And sometimes Jenny and I agree on stuff, but sometimes we don't. I think, for me, I have to draw on the experiences that I've had in my life. So Jenny and I were both tour guides at Mansfield Reformatory and Haunted Hillview Manor in Pennsylvania. So that was I would say we were students of the paranormal. And I, throughout the years have really studied different theories on it, and the ones that make the most sense to me are drawn from my experience that we had there and the experience that we had with Bigfoot and things that we've seen in the sky. But I would say that John Keel definitely, and I know Steve is probably going to talk about John Keel, so I'm just going to say a little bit. But I'm a student of John Keel, and I really appreciate his knowledge that he's passed on to people about that. The other thing would be crypto-terrestrials, which Jenny kind of touched on a little bit, that they're here, they're amongst us, and in the Bigfoot community, in ET community, there's people that are very scientific. Then you have the people that are on the woo side, and I would definitely place myself on the woo side, because I think that the physical side, they're getting answers, but if you're in it for the reason of finding your own answers, then it becomes personal. And I think that the cryptozoological world, the ET world, has a personal relationship with us when we put our intentions in that spot. So for me, that's where it's at. And I think the Buddhists have talked about tulpas, and a tulpa is something that comes from your mind. So if you put your mind onto something, then that's where you're going to find your answers. And also, Jenny and I study the 12 universal laws, and I think that those apply to how we research, and really, when you think about the indigenous tribes and their belief systems, most of them were oral traditions. But I think that those things that they prayed about, those things that they thought about, became an imprint on the DNA of the land. And that's what I think all of these things are. There's some kind of energy, and like when you think of the paranormal, you can think in terms of finding evidence. But Jenny and I both, we think in terms of energy. With ghost hunting, we don't even call it ghost hunting. We're like seeking energy, and we're looking at where we're using ourselves as like a tuner and a receiver, and that's how we research. So I think these things could be interdimensional. I think that's why you don't have a lot of evidence, but I think they're also here among us. And that's why a lot of times with Bigfoot, you'll find one track, and it doesn't make sense. Like that wouldn't make sense why there would be one track. And I know I'm channeling the spirit of Fred because Fred was Mr. Interdimensional, and that's what we really always appreciated about him.
Well, thank you so much for that. I know one time someone asked me if I thought that they were interdimensional. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And Fred was kind of like, what? I was like, I don't know about that. Well, Fred, he was the fiery, so we like to tease each other sometimes. All right, we're going to go ahead on to Brian. Brian, did you need me to read the question?
No. Speaking of Fred, his favorite saying was, where do they come from and where do they go? Okay. And we as humans want to put everything in a tiny little box. We want black or white. We don't want any shades of gray, do we? Let's face it, most people don't. I think a lot of these phenomena, especially the cryptid phenomena, could be in that gray area. There could be 2 species, maybe even 3 or 4 species. Just talking about Bigfoot, maybe the Bigfoot out west are your typical creature like a bear. Okay, maybe the ones here on the East Coast, they could be interdimensional. There have been numerous sightings of Bigfoot coming from portals. I mean, you have to look them up, but they're there. I know Chad's over there shaking his head. I mean, that somebody will be out in the middle of the woods. Maybe they'll see an orb. Maybe even an orb turn into a Bigfoot. Maybe they'll see a shimmering light, and they'll see one of these things coming out of a portal. Apparently, a portal. We just don't know. We want everything tidy. We want no loose ends as humans. And I really think we're missing out on a lot when we don't consider all sources. Like for our group here, we don't care what the exact nature of the thing is. We just want to research it, bring out as much information about the subject as we can, and talk about it here in a panel, talk about some of our talks that we give. And so just let me do a little quiz here. How many people here think that Bigfoot could be an interdimensional creature? Raise your hands. Okay, how many think it's just a flesh and blood creature like a bear?
Both. I don't know. I'm a fan.
I'm not using my money.
I didn't hear that.
You changed your question halfway through about flesh and blood like a bear. So, flesh and blood, yes. That's one question, like a bear. He said.
Well, it's not like a bear, but it's an animal out there in the woods. I should have said that.
Hands for being raised for flesh and blood.
Yeah. Why couldn't it be both? If it is at another dimension, why couldn't it somehow, which science we don't know about, guys, okay? It's in dimension A, it comes over to our dimension, slips back over into the other dimension. Again, if you're a quote unquote cryptozoologist, you're not supposed to say that. Because they don't believe it. They believe it's an animal like a bear. It's an animal like a bear.
Can I ask Brian a question, please? Can you hear me all right? Brian, I'd like to ask you, when you say interdimensional, are you talking about, some people mean a flesh and blood creature that can somehow move back and forth into another realm? Other people believe that when they say interdimensional, like Ron Moorhead, it is something that more manifests or transmogrifies or is temporal. So do you make a distinction between the two, or do you think both might be legitimate in some ways?
I mean, it could be 2 different things with different creatures, like especially like the dogman phenomenon. We're one of the first groups to actually bring it out. Ohio and PA here. And Fred and I and Terry, we took kind of a ribbing and we were laughed at. And we said, hey, we start talking about the Shenango Valley werewolf because Linda Godfrey had it in her book. And there were snickers and people were laughing. Now all of a sudden everybody's a dogman expert. We don't know, and it's okay, guys. It's okay to say we don't know something. It is, am I right? I mean, it's okay. We don't know what it is. It could be this.
It's okay to say that you don't know.
Yeah, it could be this, it could be that. I'm not smart enough to know everything out there. I'm not. We just try to talk to eyewitnesses like many of you. How many here have seen a Bigfoot? How about a dog man? You've seen everything. A Mothman? Anybody seen anything weird that you can't explain? Okay. So, again, you notice the distinction. More hands up for that, right? Because we've gotten reports, and I got one of these reports from I don't know if he's still back there, Sam Colosimo, and I actually talked to the gentleman. He claims he saw what we will call a shimmering predator type entity. Everybody knows Predator, right? If it bleeds, we can kill it. You know the movie.
I
love the movie. You have to watch it again. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. This happened in Allegheny County. And the gentleman was going out to work, and he had motion sensor lights on his garage. So before he even gets to the garage, those lights go off, and there's kind of like a halo, and there was a huge form of something. And it turned to him, and then he saw the form, and he saw through it. He actually saw just the outline, and he saw the garage. This thing took off sideways, it ran into the woods about 80 yards away, and he said it only took 3 or 4 seconds, and he heard something crashing through the woods. Other people, we have started to get other reports of people seeing what we call shimmering predator type entities. If you look under Shimmerman or Glimmerman on YouTube, you'll see more than what you think you're going to find. People are seeing a form, but not seeing. They see the woods through it. Now, what is that?
It's funny you mention this.
I had that on video about a month ago. I have it on my phone, but it's not a full formed body. It's just like a little piece.
Yeah.
Of it. Yeah.
It's funny you mention this because I remember there being Bill Lancaster has a great 3-series documentary on Bigfoot, and one of the documentaries is about native Bigfoot. And a lady was at high school in Ohio.
Here's the aliens again.
Right, they're going to be nice. It's the Flatwoods Monsters coming together, finally taking them. But there's a lady in Ohio that saw something similar in the woods by a school. She was going through the woods by a school, and she saw this thing that, like you said, shimmered. It was almost like it was wearing mirrors.
And there's a picture. That's David Pilates, Hunters 411.
That's right. Yep.
By a school. I think it
maybe
it might have been Norton, Ohio. I forget offhand.
Yeah, it was.
She was archery hunting.
That's like 10 minutes for me. So yeah. Thank you for that correction too, because I was getting things mixed up. Appreciate you.
I have a question. Would you consider that cloaking?
It's possible. Now, if you type in invisibility cloak, has anyone ever done that on YouTube? We actually have that material.
Yeah.
It'll be a sheet, and you'll see the person like this. They'll put the sheet over them. They're gone. They're just reflecting the light back. It's called invisibility cloak. And the interesting thing about that, a lot of people think, hey, this is new tech. Somewhere in the S files, this is our files that we have, from 1980, there's a Japanese man with one of these. And you see right through.
Yeah.
So this is new technology, right? From the 80s, but it's brand new.
Okay, and then, so Brian, are you finished with question 2?
Yes.
Because we have to go ahead and move on to Steve, and I'm not sure if he can hear me okay. Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I heard, Steve, could you hear me?
And I just want to note that we don't usually have this problem, but I am going to speak up a little bit louder, and I'll go ahead and read off the question for you. Where do you think cryptids come from, and what are they? What are some of your thoughts and theories?
They come from the Phantom Menagerie. That's a term that Dr. Donald Ullman coined. He was quite an interesting character. He, along with Ted Holliday, get this, exorcised the Loch Ness Monster. Don't ask. But anyway, he thought that, his idea was that these things sort of came out of nowhere and then kind of went back there. Very, very Keelian, actually. John Keel felt that some of these, now this wasn't the only answer, he thought that some of these were temporal entities or beings or whatever, that there was some kind of intelligence or force behind it. He thought that some of us, we might actually be co-creators with this phenomena. If you watch the evolution of the UFO phenomena from strange lights, fairy lights, and all the way through the evolution, there's a suggestion, but with some, that we kind of co-created some of this mythology, if you will. But he did believe that these things were actually temporarily physical in some cases. In fact, it looked like the Mothman left some kind of bizarre footprints by the Old North Power Plant. So he suggested it came from some other realm, some other dimension perhaps, but he didn't think they were flesh and blood. Now, he did believe some cryptids were in fact flesh and blood, and in a couple of his books he mentions some of the lake monsters and even the Yeti he thought perhaps were real, in quotes, real animals. But I like the idea of this, call it the collective unconscious, at least part of it. It seems like these things do come out of a realm of the same realm that sometimes nightmares come out of, and then they just kind of dissipate and go away. I'd like to make a couple quick comments on the Dogman. Linda Godfrey, of course, who wrote The Beast of Bray Road, she discovered she had a cluster map of Dogman sightings. And I forget the name of the book, but there's a book that covers effigy mounds in southern Wisconsin. She found they almost perfectly parallel the sightings of Dogman sightings around these effigy mounds. And apparently, I read somewhere that there is a Native American tradition that these entities were there to protect the mounds. One other quick anecdote. There was a gentleman driving along a Pennsylvania road, a 2-lane. He saw this light coming down through the woods. He thought it was a guy on a 4-wheeler driving crazy at night through the woods. The orb came down, morphed into a Dogman, and in 3 steps went off the road. So that suggests to me that these Dogmen, Mothman, some Bigfoots, they come out of this phantom menagerie and just kind of go back there. They don't stay here permanently.
Very fascinating. Steve, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we'll start with you for the next question. Because what we do is we just reverse the order with the panelists. So we'll go ahead. I'll go ahead and read the intro. Are you hearing me okay?
I heard, can you hear me okay?
Well, you're going to be next, so I'll just read the question. I'll go a little bit slower too. Sometimes I talk a little fast.
So long as I'm not in trouble.
Oh, not yet. All right, so here is an intro to the next question. There are human cryptids, such as werewolves, who generally cross the line between the science fiction and horror genres. They're even romanticized. Werewolves are perceived as cursed shapeshifters. Even other cryptids, especially in Native American legends, can change forms from human to anything of their choosing. For Steve, what sets these shape-shifting creatures apart from your standard Bigfoot or Mothman? Should they even be classified as cryptids?
There are only, as far as I know, there are only very few instances where people actually say they saw a shapeshift take place. And I have been very skeptical of those, but I guess we can't completely rule them out. It seems like for example, the dogmen or werewolves, whatever you want to call them, are for the most part are not shapeshifters. The shapeshifting seems to go along with the legend or the myth of the skinwalker. And so I guess I have a hard time wrapping my head around the shape-shifting. I guess that, again, there are some people that claim that they've seen this, but it's extremely rare. And of course, the myths of the werewolf goes way back to the people wearing some kind of garment or whatever that would give them the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or some kind of other animal. So I have to be at some kind of an arm's length from that, because with the few instances where this seems to happen, I just don't know what to make of them.
Certainly, thank you so much. Brian, do you need me to read off the question?
No. So basically, like shapeshifters and skinwalkers is rooted more in like mythology, okay, and the other sort of quote unquote cryptids are more into an actual animal. But I have to say that we had one. I talked to a gentleman very briefly at an Ohio Bigfoot meeting one time. And I was turning, I might have been talking to Terry or something, and I said, well, we should talk about the dog man. And it was Doug Waller's Bigfoot meeting. And the gentleman says, I saw my grandfather turn into a werewolf. And I guess it was the way I was looking at him or something. He goes, no, I'm serious. I said, well, you want to tell me about it? And he said it was in southern Ohio. And the gentleman, his grandfather, went out into a field. And he said he physically saw his grandfather change into a werewolf. Now, I don't believe a person can physically change into a werewolf. But Terry and I have been in this long enough and read a lot of things, talked to a lot of people. And really, I can't say no. I will say one quick little story is we have a friend out west, Rose, and she knows a Navajo Ranger. And I was watching Netflix. And anyone here watch Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix, the new series? Does anyone watch that? Okay, well, they have an episode called Paranormal Rangers. Stanley Milton and John Dover were on it. And I told Rose when we were talking about it, I said, I would love to talk to one of them guys. She connected me with them, and it was, about 2 years ago, that day around Christmas time. Talked to Stanley Milton. It was like I hit the lottery. I'm like, I'm getting to talk to the Navajo Ranger. It was so exciting. I talked to him for over an hour, and he answered every question. It wasn't like, hey, this guy's nuts. He's asking me all these questions. When's he going to stop? No, he answered every one. And one of the stories that he said, and this is on that episode, so if you guys want to see it, it's on Netflix, I think season 1, called Paranormal Rangers. So he was a younger gentleman. I think he went to the movies, and he was coming out of the movies, and there was an older Navajo gentleman there, and he asked for a ride. So he gives him a ride. Maybe 15 minutes in, he says, just let me off here. And he wondered why. He's like, I'll let him off here, but there's nothing here. It's like in the desert. So you let him off, and he started driving. Maybe 3 or 4 minutes later, he feels really weird. He looks off to the side. There's a giant wolf with glowing eyes running along the car with him. He thinks that gentleman was a skinwalker. Now, the Native Americans don't talk about that. It's when you talk about it, they feel, hey, if I talk about a skinwalker, one's coming to get me. Or you're going to draw that energy onto me. So they don't get to talk about that. And for him to, and he goes around, he lectures out west with John Dover, and they talk about this. So I give them so much credit. So again, boy, you can't dismiss anything. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything, but you can't dismiss it. And I think the further you go down this rabbit hole, I think Terry and I are kind of like at the bottom. I don't know how much further we can go after 40 years of this stuff. But we have a whole library, and some of these people here were there. They see what we have. And there are so many different things, so many books, so many old articles, and the people we're friends with a lot of authors and things like that. There's a lot out there, folks. It's not all on the internet, believe it or not. a very small part of what's out there is on the internet. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
if you,
Absolutely.
and you can even ask Robert, even about a lot about the giants.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like him, they dig into archives, they'll go into libraries and they'll dig it out, where
Yeah.
some people are just lazy and they won't do it.
Yeah, I had whole newspaper articles about giants that were taken away by the Smithsonian. Like literally came in, snatched them up. I have records of them digging into mounds and then taking stuff out of the mounds, Native American artifacts, giant skeletons, the jewelry that they wore. They had a specific type of jewelry that they pulled out from there. Then they put the mound back together, and then nothing. And then it just sits there as like an edifice, if you will. And the dogman aspect of them protecting those is very interesting, because there has to be something that protects those. And if there's something that protected those, what was it, and what happened to it? So yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the Kinzua Dam area, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Kinzua Dam area. Allegedly, I use the Don Keating term here, allegedly, there was a cave with a giant in it. I'm talking years ago, years 18, maybe the early 1900s. And supposedly maybe you heard about this, I don't know if you did, some military came in,
Yes.
killed them,
Yeah.
took all these big, his headdresses and all that stuff, and then they blew up the cave entrance. Again, allegedly, we don't know. And I like to be pretty honest about what we present here for our group. We present a lot of this material. We don't exactly agree 100% with it. We put a lot of it out there so you can do your own research, because there is a lot out there.
And you can't go on that property. I just wanted to mention this because people that have gone on that property to look for that have been escorted off of that property. So something's there.
Yeah, there are also, there's a lake in Pennsylvania, I'm not gonna say what it is. Allegedly, if you go too far around this lake, Pennsylvania, they're laughing, you know what it is. That you will get escorted, and there's allegedly something there. A lake, Pennsylvania.
Sounds like a lake monster almost.
No monsters in the lake, but allegedly Bigfoot around this lake.
Just to reiterate, it's a lake. In Pennsylvania, right?
Is
It's
it?
a lake in Pennsylvania.
It is a lake in Pennsylvania.
Just wanted to make sure I know if I heard you.
I'm not giving anything away there, if there's any government in the room, but. No, okay.
They wouldn't take if they were.
I don't know, you not government? Because this is what Fred would say all the time. He said, I know there's a government agent in here. It might be this guy, it might be this guy. Who is it?
Well, one thing that Fred would do too, and when you had mentioned, you were hearing that story about the man who, his grandfather turned into a werewolf, like the look on your face, that's something that you would see from Fred. If Fred was sitting there listening to someone talk, his face would be, what? you could just read his face.
Right, you're giving a thought.
That's a bullshit. And on top of that, I did want to make a quick note about the Native Americans. It's true, they definitely would not even, I personally, my mother is from Montana, so there's a lot of Native American heritage in my life. So I don't use, and I always wondered, I don't use terms like skinwalker. I said it, but I usually don't say that. And I wondered why, and I did look and see, and that's true. I think it's almost like it's something hereditary that, just kind of passed down through generations. So you'll see even in my question, I didn't refer to them as what they're referred to. And I think around this area in particular, we may have less instances of that. If you're somewhere out west, you're probably going to see a whole lot more of people talking about this shape-shifting type of entity. I don't think it's quite as prevalent around here in Pennsylvania. But we will go ahead and continue on to Jamie. Jamie, did you need me to read that question off?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, great.
So, as I'm sitting here listening to everybody talk about this stuff, and this question was on my mind as I was preparing this, and I kept thinking about shape shifting. And shifting is, oh yeah. So I've been thinking about energy, a shape-shifting energy, and how it could relate to cryptids. But I had to draw from the experiences that we've had as tour guides at Mansfield Prison and Haunted Hillview Manor. And the interesting thing about that is being at those two different locations at different times, there were things that were in those buildings, and I'll call them cryptids, I'll call them entities, we don't know what they are. But what was interesting was these creatures, whatever they were at both locations. So at Mansfield Reformatory, people would say that they saw, this is gonna sound weird, but they saw something that was like a chicken. Then they would see something that was like a half man, half horse. And those things were seen at Mansfield Reformatory. And on a different level, whenever people had seen it. So it's like energy shifting, and I'm thinking shape shifting. We don't know what that is, but it's energy. And another thing was, when we worked at Mansfield Reformatory, you think of doppelgangers and how energy is manipulated. We would have tour guides in the building, but we would have walkie-talkies and talk back and forth to one another. And I would be talking to someone that was right there next to me, and then find out that the other person that we were talking to on the walkie-talkie was in a completely different part of the world and didn't have a walkie-talkie. So, like, lots of weird things, like tour guides would be in front of you that weren't actually in that area of the building. So it almost started being like this trickster thing, and I think of shape-shifting as like a trickster type thing. And that can also be within the ET community and how these things are also, you know, we've done things with C-SETI, and C-SETI is this protocol, like C5 contact, and we've gone out into a field and played these tones and done meditations. Then we come home to our house and we would hear this energy, like this, the same thing. We would hear the sounds that were on the C-SETI tones playing within our house. So that's also like a shape-shifting type of energy, and that's what I can say about this is, I don't know, you have to really think in terms of energy. And I think with the cryptid world, we don't know how shape-shifting works. We know we can draw on what the indigenous people have said and listen to that, but that's their oral history, and it's probably pretty sacred. They don't say certain words, and we don't say those certain words.
Thank you. Okay, Jenny, did you need me to read off the next question?
No, I think I'm good. For me, the shape-shifting comes down to DNA. It's on a cellular level. The pathology shape shifts, and I think it does come down to how your genetic makeup is, because how else would you be able to totally change your body into something else? Like a chameleon will change its color to match its environment, but how does a human or another being change into something completely different? It has to be on a cellular level, sorry. And also, in saying that, no, I just forgot what I was going to say. Sorry. It totally just left my brain. But yeah, I think it does have to do with DNA. And this is what I was going to say. The energy that perhaps is around it, because maybe there is like a portal, maybe there is a different frequency vibration that is needed with your DNA, with your cellular level to do that, to change, to shift.
Now that sounds like something that we should start researching. If it's possible to get your energy to a point of evolution where you can shapeshift, I mean, why not?
Well, it is true, like when you kind of raise your vibration, you can actually look younger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. All right, now Robert, did you need me to read that off for you?
No. What I like to start off with first is because, once again, ancient history, Lyconian, who was a Roman, he was turned into a wolf. Nebuchadnezzar turned into a wolf, cursed by their deity, by Yahweh, cursed. And so there's ancient historical texts, albeit if you don't want to believe it, that's fine, that talk about people changing into things. There's also, if we want to go into the Book of Enoch and the giants and all of that, you see something genetic involved in that situation between the union of messengers and women. You had things like giants, entities, the Minotaur, which I believe was a birth of these Nephilim-esque beings. So shape-shifting in that aspect is really fascinating because there's a lot of ancient texts that talk about people being cursed and turned into things. A lot of times with the word that they would not like mentioned, so I will be respectful and not mention it as well. The idea of that is that these are beings that want to be that. They do something to become that. Unlike a lot of people get confused with the other creature known as the Wendigo, which is more of a cannibalistic creature that lives in a cave. And there's more to that, but I want to stay on point. Some of these shape-shifting aspects, we have to break down scientifically in a concept of mathematics. Okay, if I could rearrange my molecular structure, I could walk through these walls. And shout out to my co-host Spider, he's not here, but shout out to him because he wrote a paper about this in high school, and I had the pleasure of reading it. And it makes sense. If I can rearrange my molecular structure, I can do anything. That's where we get a lot of our superheroes, our comic books, a lot of that. Plastic Man, Mr. Fantastic, all people that can shapeshift their arms, legs. So it's all about genetics. Well, if that's the case, are some of these shapeshifters genetic hybrids? Are they genetic experimentations? You know, people might, I couldn't believe that happened. But then you have instances of Chinese doctors operating on monkeys and putting brains in them and taking brains out of them. So it's not too far-fetched to say that we don't do very similar tactics here. There's been reports of people being taken in the middle of the night, and we can get into that. And what do they do with them? And these aren't people that are like government, you know, they're not people that are on wanted lists. They're just random people that are plucked, just plucked. And I think a lot of the shape-shifting aspect sort of relates to that in genetics, because in order to be able to shape-shift into things, into, you know, creatures, werewolves and things, your genetics have to change. Your body has to physically change. I've never seen a lanky dude turn into a big werewolf. I've never seen a lanky dude just turn into a lankier werewolf. It's genetics. It's your skin being stretched. It's your organs having to enlarge themselves to be able to take impact, to be able to do the things that the dogmen have been decided to do, that werewolves have been decided to do. Fast running, like Brian was just talking about earlier, being able to catch up to a car. And God bless Linda Godfrey. She was an amazing, amazing woman. I loved her books. And there's a lot of talk of that. Deer men, that's another thing that people have driven by and seen these deers having these big old bonfires and just partying out in the woods. You know, things we all love to do, right? But if you take it over to Ireland, Sir Nunos was a deer god, as it were. He was an antlered god. Well, I was able to connect the Native American tribes meeting with Irish folks coming over. And they brought that folklore with them, and I think that enhanced that concept of deer men, because that's another thing that's been cited. Where do they come from? Up in Cleveland, there is a urban legend about the Melonheads. I don't know if you guys know what the Melonheads are. There was supposedly a mansion or a large house where a doctor would try to increase the size of children's brains. And supposedly, big fire, burned down. And later, looked at me like, that's crazy. It is crazy, isn't it, ma'am? I agree. But these were experiments. So is it experiments? Is it genetics? Somewhere, somehow, science has to play a part in this. We can, you know, because I like being able to break things down scientifically, all right? What is it going to take for that shape-shifting to happen? There has to be a genetic mutation within the body that allows that. Where that gene comes from, how that gene is taken, if that gene is implanted, that's the questions that I have. But for me, you know, shape-shifting, if you look at it from a scientific lens, it's not that impossible.
Well, thank you for that. And I did just want to know, like, you can say the word that the Native Americans don't like. It's just that that's going to draw them to you. That's what the theory is. Like, I'm not going to say it, especially not at night, because I don't want anything knocking on my door or in my window. But anyone who does use that word, I mean, you know, it's probably just a Native American superstition. There were a lot of them, as we know. You could probably say it, like I said, but just not at night. All right, and so now we're gonna go ahead and we will reverse order again. So we will start again with Robert Solomon. And I'm just gonna go ahead with an intro to our next question. Now, evidence is paramount during a cryptid investigation, and many have found what could be either footprints, audio, video, or photographs. And that sometimes those photographs are usually a blurred representation of a cryptid. Sometimes the evidence itself can cause infighting in the cryptid community. Robert, question 4. Can you please share your experiences with research, field efforts, and/or evidence collecting? Secondarily, is there a way to make this field a better place to be?
So the big thing about me is I'm a book hoarder. I have stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of books. You can ask my son over there. I have quite a bit of books, don't I? Yeah, I've got quite a bit of books. Because I will find something so tiny and then want to research it, and then I have to research everything I can on that topic. There's no middle ground. So for me, it's, first of all, you have to get the texts, and I think Brian said it very well, that the internet isn't going to have everything you are looking for. It's got a minute fraction, because it doesn't have somebody's aunt who wrote a diary about something she saw 15, 20 years ago, and the specifics and who she talked to about that. You can't find that on the internet unless somebody uploads it, but if it's just sitting in somebody's attic, that's key evidence. That's key conversational pieces that we need to be having. So for me, it's getting those texts first and foremost. That's the most important thing. And I need multiple sources and multiple people writing about it from multiple angles. Because I don't know everything and I'm not an expert, and I will never claim to be an expert. I'm just like everybody else. I want to know what's going on. Then, if I'm able, because a lot of the stuff I want to research takes money, feel free to give me money if you'd like to see me travel. Thank you. The Middle East being my primary concentration, there's so much lore over there that I need to see for research that I have that I'm working on. But around here, I've been out to Mansfield Penitentiary, amazing place, did an overnight there, fantastic. And it's not so much the paranormal for me there, but it's the history. That history is so beautiful, it's amazing. But going there and feeling at the time, and a lot of people are like, well, feelings don't matter, but they do. What about gut intuitions? When you have a gut intuition, you follow that gut intuition, right? That's a feeling. So I try to go into these places and feel how the energy is, as Jamie would say. When you go into a place like Mansfield, you're going into a place that death was heavy. I mean, getting thrown off tears, getting thrown off the range, getting stabbed up in the shower, other things happening to you that I won't mention, that causes misery and torment. And there's a certain energy that I believe sits in these places. I don't necessarily believe that the ghosts are still there. That's me, once again. I have a little theory for that, so no disrespect to people who do. But there's still that energy of misfortune and sadness. And when you enter into that building, you feel it. It hits you like a brick. Between that and the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum are the two biggest places I have felt just despair, death. And then you start learning about it and learning about the history of it. And it just kind of brings you closer to that realm of understanding. And I think that, the evidence that we need to get, it's hard to be in this community and not get ridiculed for how you look at something. Even from people that have been in the field for a long time, if you pose a new idea, that scares some people. And we don't have open communication like we should in this community. Everybody wants to safeguard this information. For what? You're not going to be able to sell it for $1 million because anybody that is interested in it, they're not going to pay you $1 million. I share everything that I learn freely, all of it, from day one. Formulas that I find, ancient historical texts that I find. I sometimes make copies and upload them online because this is something we all need to be learning together. If we don't learn together, we're not going to advance. Brian has a different interpretation of things than I do, but listening to Brian, now I have a key thing in my head. Okay, I was thinking about this before. Brian gave me something to think about. or Jamie and Jenny, or Christine, or anybody else here, give me that little bit of, hey, did you think about this? Because then my brain starts moving in a different direction. I didn't think about this. And the one thing we can do to better this community as a whole is to listen to each other. Don't listen to somebody's story and immediately throw it away. Or, oh, I don't believe them. Unless you were there, which you probably weren't, you need to take these stories, like Brian said, you don't have to believe it, but don't dismiss it. Please don't dismiss it, because there might be a bit of information there that one of us can pull and say, there was another case like this 3 counties over. Now you're establishing a pattern. Once you establish a pattern, then you can move from there. So we just need to be more kind to each other in this community. That's really it. Just be kind to each other. We don't have to act like jerks to each other. We're all in it for the same thing.
Thank you so much for that. And I do want to mention that point. It is a time period where people talk at each other rather than to each other. And that's one of the reasons that I have these panels too, is because online people are posting things, they're talking about things, but they're not talking to each other, they're talking at each other, yelling at each other. Like there can be times where you could solve that by sitting down and having an event like this. So thank you so much for that. And I do appreciate the sharing of the information, because it's true, like what are you holding that back for? Unless you're in the middle of an experiment that you don't release yet, I think that would be the only exception for kind of hiding what you've seen.
Or maybe just, it would be too dangerous to let out.
That's
like I know there's a place, but I don't want to reveal that place because we're people, and somebody's going to be like, I'm going to go there tonight, and then they end up getting hurt. So I can see that, but I think general knowledge should be shared amongst us all. A database where we can all pull from it and then reflect, and then send out messages to one another and say, did you hear about this? Well, I have a sighting right now somebody's telling me about on the phone, and it's correlating to this. Once again, pattern recognition, boom, we can start scientifically breaking things down, and that's it. We want proof. We don't want just hearsay. We want physical proof. And the one thing I'll say, I don't know if I want that proof yet. I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying going to the library at 3:30 on a Saturday afternoon and pulling from a book that is older than I am, and I love it. I love it. And I think once this stuff would be proven right, as cool as it would be, that love of the chase, the love of the books that I've opened and the people that I talk to, that's my favorite part. Yeah, it's cool if it gets proven, but my favorite part is meeting new people and hearing new ideas about it. So.
Certainly, in one of the books, The United States of Cryptids, in that book, he mentions that once it's discovered, it's then categorized as an animal and it's over. So it's kind of probably good that you haven't seen or identified Bigfoot completely in a scientific sense, because then it does just become something normal. Okay, I'm going to go ahead on to Jenny. Jenny, did you need me to read off the question?
I think I'm good, thank you. I wanted to say the number one thing for me is when Jamie and I are doing field research is just to have fun, to have a good time, to not take things so seriously. Of course, you do have to use your deductive reasoning and you want to suss things out for evidence, but have fun with it. Have a childlike exuberance about it. Be weird, be funny, because sometimes evidence finds you when you least expect it.
Oh, thank you. That's very true. Jamie, did you need me to read the question?
No, I'm just going to be brief, but I think that we in this community, be it Bigfoot, be it UFOs, be it ghost hunting, I think that you have to give yourself permission to go beyond what you think you know, because you don't know everything. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think you have to question why you're doing the research that you're doing, or why you're going into a building looking for ghosts. Because I think that's important to ask yourself too. And if you're a researcher and you're looking for fame or fortune, it's probably not going to happen. It's select few. So go into stuff looking for your own answers, looking for your own experiences. And I think that's how you can make research better, just like Robert said with sharing. The Seaches have shared their library with us. They shared Fred's library with us. So I think that is really good to build community and help one another share in the information, and also to try to stay in your own lane. Like if you have an idea and and other ideas might pollute your idea, and just try to step back a little bit, because like Jenny and I are pretty lucky that we've known each other all our lives, that we can really sit back and enjoy how we research together, and I think that's the good thing for us. But like just find your people, find your tribe. That's what you need to do if you really want to get out there and learn about the cosmos, about Bigfoot, any of this.
Okay, thank you so much. Brian, did you need me to read the question or you?
No. When we first started this journey 40,000 years ago, 40 years ago, we were always told at the very beginning that everything you do is like building a puzzle. Everybody that you meet can have a piece of this puzzle. We've learned so much from Jamie and Jenny here on the frequency side of it. Robert on the giant side, the giant. Kathleen and Brian on the ghosts. Leah on everything, right? Scott and Jeff teaching me the history about West Virginia, going to these places that I could have never found myself, and giving me the history. We've been down there, it'll be 5 years in August. We're blessed to know these people. We would not be where we are with all of them. We would not be. And as far as in general, we do believe you should try to share as much as you can. Now, we know you can't, we know that there's confidentiality, okay? That does play a part in it. But like we say, hey, I don't have to know that it's Bob's farm right across the street that this thing was seen. How about giving me a county and just some details of it? Or it could be Pennsylvania.
Not Ohio.
Not Ohio. But there are some, no names, who will not give you any. I mean, I got all these reports. I can't talk about it. Can you tell me? No, I can't talk about it. Nothing. A lot of them, it's about ego. Let's be 100% honest about this, folks. It's about ego, right? You learn it. You haven't been in this field too long. You learn. It's not about us, people. Not about us. We could leave tomorrow. Terry and I could leave this field tomorrow. Nobody would know or care. But the phenomenon is still there. Okay. Whatever phenomenon it is, it's not going anywhere. Hopefully we get answers. I don't believe we will get answers before we pass on and I can meet Fred. I don't think we'll find them. I mean, we're going to look. We're going to give it everything we got. Okay? We've been doing it for 40 years. And all these people here I mentioned have been given all of their help. So, yeah, when we're out, we look for, obviously we're looking for prints, we're looking for hair samples, and, something where some kind of creature interacted with the environment. And I believe if you can, try to share as much as you can. Okay? Again, like I said, I'm not saying, don't give me the address of this guy and I go up and knock on his door, because that wouldn't be cool. But you can give me a little bit more, or us, anybody here, more information. And again, it's not about us, it's not about you guys, it's about the phenomenon. The phenomenon is there. We're just researchers of the phenomenon.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Steve, we're calling on you. Can you hear?
You said you can only hear Brian.
Brian, comment.
You said you could only.
Ask Steve if he can hear us.
Can you hear us, Steve?
Oh, is he muted?
We can't hear him now.
Now he has to unmute himself.
Hey, Steve, go unmute yourself.
That was not nice.
He can't hear.
I think he's muted.
I think he's just talking.
No, he's muted.
Yeah. Somebody texted him. Somebody shoot him a text.
His mic up there.
I didn't mute it. He muted himself.
Most everything is distorted. And I can hear Brian 90% of the time. Most everybody else is just kind of like an electronic noise for some reason. I don't know if it's the microphones or what, or the acoustics of the room, but for some reason, the only person I can hear clearly is Brian Seach. Go figure.
Your favorite, though.
So, was there a question you could try again to see if I can hear it?
Okay, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. And this is for Steve. Can you share your experiences with research, field efforts, and/or evidence collecting? Secondarily, is there a way to make this field a better place to be?
I haven't really, you're not going to, people that go out looking for the Mothman, you're not going to find him. You're not going to find any traces of Mothman. And John Keel found some strange footprints way back when, but you're just, maybe Mothman might find you if you go out looking for him. I don't know. But my research has been essentially talking to several of the original witnesses over the past several years. And from that, I've learned that, again, like that earlier, like I said, it's very hard to classify the Mothman. There is a lady named Linda Sigmund that saw the Mothman in conjunction with some kind of a strange light, and she had missing time. John Keel talked about a banker in the Mothman prophecies that heard something out of his porch. He went out and saw this thing standing there. He went into a trance or whatever and lost time for about 20 or 30 minutes. John Keel talked to many of the original witnesses, and they had an outbreak of poltergeist phenomena afterwards. And a Swedish researcher named Franzen went in a year or two later and it found the same thing. The Grays, Reverend Gray and his wife, saw this thing manifest. The classic Mothman, 6-7 foot tall, 10-foot wingspan, red glowing eyes in their bedroom. Now they were missionaries. They were due to leave the next day to go to some far off country. So they did not even see the newspapers until they got back. When they saw the newspapers, they thought, my God, that's what manifested in our bedroom. When the Mothman chased the two couples into Point Pleasant, Roger Scarberry said that he actually heard the wings flapping and hitting the side of the car. When they stopped, he got out. He loved his car, so he checked the sides to see if there were any dents in it. Again, footprints, there were other strange footprints in the area. So it kept presenting a paradox. And so that's what I'm dealing with. If you have to ignore certain aspects of the original witnesses to try and fit Mothman into a particular category, and it's almost impossible. One time I was on a talk show, and I usually go through the litany of experiences. And one time I just blurted out, I said, okay, Mothman's an elemental. And then I said, don't ask me what an elemental is because I have no idea. So that's been my research into the Mothman, is listening to the experiencer as we should do in any situation, in any case, with any type of creature or entity.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We're gonna go ahead with you again. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. We're going into our very last question, and I'm gonna do an intro first. For our last question, we will discuss some of the more uncertain types of cryptids. There are many cryptids who were fabricated by towns or business owners in an effort to bring business to their towns. Many have admitted to these hoaxes, with some even creating a floating raft to be portrayed as a sea creature, or with others telling a false story or faking evidence. Yet the creatures persist as an icon for each individual town, usually designated by a statue, placard, painting, or even a yearly festival. Steve, do the hoax cases tend to cause issues or undermine your work or studies into cryptid existence? If not, have you encountered a case that was clearly a hoax?
I think it's generally, I'm kind of, I like the idea that so many towns and states have sort of embraced their local cryptid. I think with the Mothman, there have been a few tales told that I thought were frankly BS. But for the most part, the people I have dealt with, and some of them are no longer with us, unfortunately. Tom Urey and Linda Scarberry, they're gone. But they're just very credible. So, of course, we have to, it's like a minefield. We have to be very careful about the tales that are told. Heck, even the Loveland Frogman, he was only seen a couple times. That guy got his own festival already. Look how long it took the Mothman to get a festival. Decades, for crying out loud. You know, at least he was very patient. But the Mothman phenomenon grew over time. It wasn't like there was a group of people saying, "Hey, let's start a festival, and then maybe we'll make some money." There was a lot of resistance to that festival early on. So yeah, we have to be very careful. There are some cryptids, I think, like the Grafton Monster. Didn't that guy only show up once or twice? And he's got his own festival now. But yeah, we have to be very careful about the tales that are told by people to sort of maybe heighten things. You don't really need to do that with Mothman. If you talk to the original witnesses, the original experiencers, and call it folklore, call it history, it has just fallen into place. And I have to mention Jeff Walmsley is the man behind all this. He's the one that started the festival. He founded the Mothman Museum. And he and his family and friends have really brought that town back. So I think, for the most part, people are just kind of celebrating their local cryptid. And I don't think we're seeing a whole lot of fabrication, but that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much. Brian, did you need me to reread the question?
No, as far as like some of the hoaxes, we were hoaxed one time, and it wasn't us particularly. It was down in Salt Fork during their annual Bigfoot conference. It was down by the water treatment plant, Salt Fork Lake, and there was kind of like the sandbar right next to the road. And there was one imprint, kind of made that you could see it from the road. So we went there and we checked it out, and we happened to call a couple researchers who were at the conference, Jody Cook and William Guinness, and they came down also to verify it was a hoax. It was like somebody took a flat piece of plywood, made a foot, no definition or nothing, just put it right in there. Surprised there wasn't lighted signs. Big footprint. But if you think about hoaxing, so everybody here has a passion. They, whatever it may be, they have a passion. They have something they're very strong with. Okay. You have some jerk over here trying to destroy your passion, trying to put anything so you're not enjoying your passion. Okay. So what does that say about that person? You have nothing else better to do than to hoax guys like us out there trying to find real evidence. That to me, that shows their character. And yeah, sure, it angers all of us, right? I mean, we're out doing our thing, not bothering anybody, trying to find evidence of history. And you got some guy who's, oh wow, I bet your mom's proud. So yeah, hoaxing can do a lot of bad for the field.
Well, even in the United States of Cryptids book, you will find that, they actually list the names of some of the people who have done some of these hoaxes. So to them, it also may be alternately a way to achieve some sort of fame or connection to that creature. So it's very, very strange that someone would put effort and time. And actually, some people have actually created what would look like a cryptid, put it offshore, things like that. Just
exactly.
That effort to.
It's like you have nothing else better to do.
Yeah. They wanted their art to be seen in some cases. It's very interesting. Okay, Jamie, did you need me to read it?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk with Brian and I have similar backgrounds. We do the same type of work. And if you talk about this stuff at your work, you kind of become a joke. So there was a man at work that said that he had this Bigfoot experience, and he had found these prints, and he told me where to go, and he said, I'll tell you exactly where it's at. And part of me was like, 50% of me said, I think he's lying. I felt like he was lying. The intuitive side of me said he's lying. And then the other part of me was like, I have to go. So I went and I looked, and I could not find these prints that he was talking about. And then I should have realized that when he told me that he had gone on a date with Taylor Swift, I should have. But like as we talk about hoaxes, like the number one thing that's been scrutinized is the Patterson Gimlin film, and that thing has been, we've all met Bob Gimlin in this community. We met him, and we listen, like Steve once said, we have to listen to the witnesses, and when you listen to them, the answers will come. Like you'll have an intuitive feeling if somebody's telling the truth. And I have a hard time. I haven't seen this documentary that's recently going to come out, or it has come out, about the Patterson Gimlin film being faked, and that they had someone wearing a costume, and that they had a practice run. And I think that some of that may be true, but I don't know. I think that after Patterson Gimlin had their encounter, they did a practice run for a film. This costume may have been used, but I don't think it's the actual Patterson Gimlin faking or hoaxing. Because when you talk to Bob Gimlin, he's the most sincere. He's magnanimous. Like, he's so gracious with everyone that he meets. And I would find a hard time disbelieving him. So I think that the man had his life scrutinized to the point of like he almost lost his marriage, he lost friends. He went out of the spotlight for a long time. I think that anyone that would want to hoax is doing themselves a disservice. So I think that it's bad. It's bad for the field. I don't really have anything more to say about it, but I'm never going to hoax. That's what I'm going to do.
If I could just say one thing. Oh, sure. We met Bob, Terry and I do, and Leah, I do believe what he said. He told me he had a gun on him. He had his rifle up, and if it was going to come towards him, he was going to shoot him. And his case is very similar to another person in the UFO field. I know there's some UFO people. Travis Walker. After Travis's abduction, he was away from the field for years. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. And then he eventually came forth, and then he started doing his conferences. And he was speaking up in Erie at John Ventry's UFO conference. And right before he went on, he's like this. Just like, you could tell, like, he was reliving something. And I walked up to him before he went out and I says, "Are you reliving this?" And he goes, "Every single time." So again, now that he's come under fire like he does. So the negative Nancy's out there, right, what we call them, they're having a field day with all this stuff. But the thing that they still can't, let's say that somehow it was end up being both of them. We're still having UFO sightings every day. We're still having these cryptid sightings, all different cryptid sightings, continuously and all the time. A total cynic, I call him cynic, a skeptic, will never admit we can have a Bigfoot right here on the slab. Nah, it's a prop. Oh, it's only one of them, so you need to find the second one. There will always be an excuse. I'm glad I don't live my life. We don't live our life like that. I like to live a why not life, not a cynical old bastard type life. So, and the people I associate with are like me, and I love you guys.
Okay, and I think it's Jenny's turn. Did you need me to rewrite the question?
I'm good. I was going to say that for me, it's best to be authentic and honest in this field. And I think if more people were like that, then it would be a better place than if we did have more authenticity and people getting together, collaborating, having respect for one another. Because when you are somebody that wants to fabricate or make something up, speaking about Fred Saluga, he would just say that's bullshit. And sometimes it is bullshit, and we don't want to hear about that. We want to hear about how you really feel and what you really saw, what you really felt, or what you really experienced, and let's go on from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny. Robert, did you need me to read the last question?
No. The one thing I want to say, and there's really two parts of this. The one thing scares me as a researcher in this field is AI. AI concerns me greatly in this regard because it's going to 100% harm us. There's no, you can prepare for it as best you can, but it's going to harm the field. It's only a matter of time, it already is. People can create all sorts of AI generated images and try to pass them off as being legit. I've seen a couple. I think the one thing I will never do is be inauthentic. I will always 100% be me. If you don't like it, I don't care. I don't have time for your problems, for your issues. I have research, and I have to get that research so I can pass it down to my child. If he chooses to move forward with it, by all means. If not, that's okay too. But for me, it's about gaining as much knowledge and wisdom as I can on UFOs, aliens. Love the MUFON shirt. I've seen a UFO myself. Flight of the Navigator. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that movie. Looked just like that. And I saw it 2 weeks. I saw it during COVID, during 2020. I was in the backyard looking up. I saw this Flight of the Navigator shaped UFO move from one space and about that far apart, but I don't know how you would use a formula to make that equal to the distance. And then I saw it 2 weeks later and did the same thing. Could it have been government? Government, like Brian said, the government has stuff we can't even imagine. And people say, oh, that's a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy at all. So I think, once again, AI is going to be a problem in our field if we don't find ways to address it as a community because of all the infighting that we have. I might not believe the same things that my fellow panelists believe, but I respect them. I respect them because they know what they're talking about. We don't have to agree with each other on everything, and I don't want to, because that doesn't cause good discourse. I don't want yes men in the field. Oh yeah, that's a great idea, it's a great idea. Tell me if you think it's a strange idea. Because this way I can go back and reformulate my ideas. I think people that hoax people, and this leads into my second point, let's look at it on a larger scale. We're looking at it like, Billy Joe put those Bigfoot prints in the sand so that Brian would freak out. But let's look at it on a bigger level. Do you all remember when the government was going to release that document? I think it was 2020, about UFOs. Did anybody here read that document? I read it, and you could not pull a single solitary thing out of it. It was black line, black line, black line, black line, black line, black line, black line. Why? Why are you scared? Why are you afraid of telling us the truth? Is it because we would collectively panic as a society? Is that the reason? Are you afraid? So what they do is, what the media does is, if they want to destroy an idea, they make the people who support the idea look stupid. They make them look dumb. Oh, we got some actor to be your stereotypical hillbilly and say they saw a Bigfoot after they were tapping into the shine. And then people look at those people and they're like, none of that's real. But you have people that are from all walks of life who are seeing these entities, these beings, these creatures. You're not just having some Joe Whatchmo down in West Virginia seeing one thing. You're having businessmen, you're having people that have college educations seeing these UFOs, seeing this ancient technology, seeing these things, and the media dumbs us down. They make all of this look fake. They make it look stupid. And so what that then in turn does is we can't make headway. We can't get in there and push far enough to get things going. I'm a big fan of UFOs, abduction cases. I've read through plenty of abduction cases. And it fascinates me. I'm interested why this is what it is. Is it because of the Majestic 12? Is it because Eisenhower's meeting with aliens? Supposedly he met with the Greys, but he also met with the Nordics. There's a lot to this. I'm getting a little bit off point, and I apologize. But if we start hoaxing each other, Because also you'll do it to dissuade somebody's research, so you put your research over. Seen that happen before too. If you are such a miserable human being that your goal is to stop somebody's passion, it's not gonna work on me. I believe the giants existed. I believe in the flood. I believe the Bible. You can hate me for that if you want to, you can say whatever you want about me, but I will stand both feet down and say, this is how I think, this is how I feel. I'll tell my coworkers, I hope you think I'm crazy. Because I don't want people that are confined to societal rules. Like, you can't believe outside of those. I am so grateful to Christine and to Fred and to Bob Schultz, because when I was a kid, much like when most of us were kids, you couldn't talk about this stuff. It was an in-family thing. My mother used to hear footsteps and doors slamming in her house when she was a little girl. I only learned about this later on in life. My grandmother saw a UFO when she was a little girl crossing the field. My father told me that 3 years ago. My grandmother's been dead since I was 8. So that shows you that things like this had a stigma behind them, that if you talked about aliens or UFOs, you're a nut job. If you had conspiracy theories, you were a nut job, even though some of those conspiracy theories turned out to be true. You're a nut job. So what they do is they try to break us down. They take the craziest people that we have in our field, and they magnify their personality so much. You know, what do we all remember from Ancient Aliens? The hair. We remember the hair, right? And that dude's cool. I got to go to one of his Ancient Aliens discussions, and he's a very, very cool guy. Very, very cool guy. But you remember the hair because they wanted to have a character. They wanted to portray that. So that's what a lot of this research has become, is we're all characters. But we need to band together, and we need to start pushing back. One of my favorite things to talk about in regards to UFOs is the technology involved in making a UFO run. Is it nuclear? Do they use mercury? I've heard so many different rumors, but the technology is my favorite part, because I want to know if it can happen, if we can create those anti-gravity fields and these distortions. But see, people, if I was outside of here talking to people normally, they'd be like, what's a distortion field? Because people aren't educated enough. If you educate somebody on something, they learn something, right? But if you start hoaxing and doing all this horrible stuff, as soon as they hear the word Bigfoot, oh, that Gimlin film? You mean the fake Bigfoot? Because and we destroy each other. We really destroy each other. We don't uplift each other enough in this community. We don't take time to, like yourself. I was able to see what your website was or your YouTube, and I have that streaming to multiple platforms right now because I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed. I want you to succeed. I want everybody in this room to succeed, because success builds community. And if we build a community, they can't make fun of that anymore when there's multiple people. I used to think, after reading all this stuff about giants, that they 100% exist, because there's too many accounts from too many time periods that don't overlap. Some overlap. You'll have ancient people talking about, you have people today talking about the Kandahar giant. I don't know if any of you know what that is. In Afghanistan, supposedly they found a giant. I don't know if I believe it per se, because some of it sounds a little hoaxy, some of it doesn't. But that doesn't hurt me, because I can choose not to believe that. And that's what we have to do with hoaxers. We don't have to fall for it. We don't have to give them the energy. We just ignore them. Go away. Like, I don't care, because I've put my research in. I've done my due diligence. I care about what I have to say and my colleagues have to say. I don't care what you have to say, because you're not helping me and you're not helping them. And that's all. If you're going to host people, like, it's not high school anymore. Somebody tell these people it's not high school anymore. You know,
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
On the Middle East.
Yes, sir.
That Kandahar spider. I don't like spiders.
The one that chases them and supposedly screams at people.
It's huge.
Yeah, no, it's very real. It's very real. I've had a couple buddies that were in the military. I asked the same question. I said, Yeah, that's a camel spider.
Yeah, that's real.
That's a camel spider, and they shriek. No, I'm good in Ohio, where I'm gonna complain about the weather 50 to 60% of the time, and I don't have to worry about a giant spider just chasing.
No, sir.
Well, when I was in Australia, they had a lot of, venomous things. So I would, even just walking down the street, I would look up and be like, please don't drop from that tree. So that's that.
Or the huntsman spiders that sit on people's walls. They'll be like, it's a giant spider that sits on your wall. If I go into my house and I see a giant spider on my wall, it's your house now, you make the mortgage payments. I'm moving back home with my parents. Right? That's that. So I'm done.
Unwanted residents and tenants and things of that nature. All right, well, thank you all for that today. I did have just a couple comments. I think there is still a stigma. Like, there are a lot of us and a lot of people who don't talk about experiences. That could be if they had, like, a professional job where, it might be something that comes back to kind of bite them. In the end, not talking about spiders or anything, but, it may be that people veil what they've seen or what they know, for professional purposes too. Either that or, that whole fear of being a crazy person or whatever. But I do want to say that the panelists today, you would be welcome to, I guess, even confidentially email some of them and let them know your experience. So we may have people on the live stream who are, this is new to them. Some people this is new to. And, at least we can have like kind of a safe area where you can talk to people about your experiences. All right, well, now I'm going to see if any of the panelists would like to add anything of their own. Anything, the questions are complete for now. So if there's anything that the panelists would like to add, you can go ahead and speak up now.
Yeah, I'd like to just talk a little bit about, I think it was and the UFO people can back me up here. I think it was in 2021 that they had that first congressional panel, which they came out with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, in that, if you read it all, it's not that long, the very first one.
Yeah.
It says about extraterrestrials. You can find it under the other bin.
Yes.
Other bin. Could be extraterrestrial. So again, it's government wordplay. They'll say, hey, we never said it was extraterrestrial, but we didn't say it wasn't. Look under the other bin.
They're saying non-human entity.
Yeah, and it's, so again,
Biologics, they call them, sometimes they call it like biologics.
so again, a lot of what you read and stuff, one simple word can change a whole sentence. It can change a whole.
And it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah. So again, I think it's coming closer to that they are going to admit something. I really do believe that. I don't think that these are terrestrial. Again, maybe some are, maybe, but the technology that some of these things are doing, I just don't think we have. Now, again, always that caveat: do we actually have it, and is there a secret group using it against our own government to see what the capabilities are? Right? Because we don't know for sure. So again, I think with a lot of this stuff, you've got to be on the fence until more comes out.
I mean, I think to add to that, I think that we're living in a time where reality is your own reality. There's so many perspectives, and everything is so subjective that you have to do your own research. And like the whole thought of disclosure on many levels of disclosure of UFOs, disclosure of films that were filmed in 1967 that are now being called fake. I mean, you really have to do your own work.
Oh, certainly. And then there were a couple of those disclosure hearings. You can watch them, and they do acknowledge reverse engineering on craft that was allegedly found. So there are some tidbits in there. They do allegedly say that they found some biologics. These are all things that, with witness testimony, people who have seen that. And obviously, we've talked about a lot of this on alien panels, especially the first one, that they, were claiming there were incidents with military, like UFOs versus military, and there's that question of, is this from another country? Is this a technology that we have? Or is this something completely out of this world?
Well, you remember the drones that they sold in New Jersey?
Yes, that was part of our first panel. We talked a lot about that.
Those drones, like I said, and I'll say this forever, the government has technology that we are not even aware of, that we're not even allowed to be. If you thought about it right now, they would come and kidnap you, and they would probably throw you into jail, and you'd never be released.
Mind crimes.
Yes. Minority Report at this point, you know, Tom Cruise comes and gets you, you know?
Speaking of those drones, I got a video of some, I think it's one of those that were in New Jersey. It was like 2 weeks before that all popped off on the news, and it's just going right behind my house.
If we can discuss that, I would like to know more about that,
I can
because
show you the video when you guys are done.
because I think that's either us, because it wasn't anything out of the ordinary, of like out of the realm of our technological know-how. But what I think, because you know, I trust the government about as much as I trust a rotten board to step on. So for me, I could definitely see them using that as a way to distract us. You know, and then what they do is they give us breadcrumbs. You know, Brian thinks they're going to release some stuff. I think they'll release just enough. They always release just enough to sort of say, well, it could be, but it might not be either. And you don't know. You don't know. And they do it on purpose. And there's a part of me to play devil's advocate, because I have to with stuff like this. What if the government's doing it for our own good? And once again, you know, like gentlemen laughing, not they don't do a lot for us that's good. I get this. But I have to play devil's advocate with that and say, what if it's something that is on a level that would, like almost like like a rapture event, where people would go full psychosis, they would lose their mind, because outside of us, right? Because we all have experienced things and seen things and been through things, most of us. Some we can't explain. But there's a lot of people that are here every day, 9 to 5, get up, come home, watch the news, watch sports, go to bed. And that's not an insult to people that watch the news or sports, by the way. But they have, my best friend, that's what he does. We don't talk about UFOs, we don't talk about Bigfoot. That's not who he is. I love it. That's not who he is. He enjoys sports, he enjoys, you know, things of that nature. So there's those people that if that reality is shattered for them, what does that do for our society? You've seen how we acted in 2020 towards each other. Could you imagine if we all of a sudden learned that yes, there's extraterrestrial intelligent life that's been coming to our planet for as long as we have been a species?
Or lives here.
Or came from Mars? No. That's something that would destroy the fabric of society, especially in this day and age of the internet influencer. And AI is one of those things, like I said, I'm concerned with them doing something like that. You know, Project Bluebeam. There's another one where they were going to put these things in the sky so to trick people. But once again, they're going to release enough so that we don't kill each other over it, but just enough to where we all look crazy when we talk about it.
I would like to say something. I apologize because I swore. I forgot.
You're so sweet.
And I was just saying what like Fred Saluda would say, so
What the Fred?
I apologize.
Listen,
I was waiting for what the Fred, by the way.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, you know, there has been, you know, obviously past events with radio broadcasts that caused mass hysteria. I mean, think about it. Maybe that was a trial run to see what, because there usually is a trial run to see how people react to things. So, I mean, that's just another theory we could consider. Anybody else? Does somebody want to check in with Steve? Steve. Go ahead, Brian, if you want to ask Steve if he has anything he wants to add.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Do you have anything you want to add today?
Yes, I apologize for my deafness today, but yes, people, like I said before, we need to listen to the experiencer. We need to try to separate our preconceived notions from when we're listening to these people. And also, if you guys come by on weekends, I'm working at the Mothman Museum. Come by and say hi. The Mothman Festival occurs every third weekend in September, which will be coming up before long. We have speakers, we have food, we have T-shirts, we have the Mothman statue, we have the memorial where the bridge that collapsed in '67 was. So there's so much to see, so much history, so much folklore, and I even speak on the last speaker on Sunday, usually, when everybody's heading home. So be sure and come for that. So and if you come to the festival, stand in line Saturday morning for the Mothman Hayride. It only costs $5. It does sell out. We take people into the dreaded TNT area, into the dead of night. You'll encounter men in black, a flyover of the Mothman, and a couple of guys in ghillie suits hiding in the shadows. It's an absolute blast.
I agree. That hayride is awesome. I only did it once, but I'm not going to throw on any surprises. Definitely sign up for that. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and check. Were there any questions from the in-person audience? Jeff?
Yeah, I gotta know, Robert, the second sighting in Flatwoods, you talking about the guy with the car?
Yeah, that was the Frametown sighting. Yeah, he got out of the car and saw it. Yeah, yep. A lot of people don't know about that. They only know about the Kathleen May incident. They don't know about that Frametown. I've read it in a couple books. Frank Fascino, I think, put it in his, and then Barker, he also, I think, talked about it as well. So yeah, that was the car situation. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for pointing that out.
Well, I wasn't sure if I missed something. You know, I knew about the two.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe you knew a third.
There's somebody that has said that they have seen this in crossing a valley, but it's hard to ascertain if that is the case. But I don't disbelieve them because of the sightings around that time. But it wasn't as nationally known as, Freetown wasn't really nationally known, but it was known enough to go in the books.
It's such a small
Yes.
community.
Yes.
You've been there.
My relatives are from there. They remember that time. And I'm related to Kathleen May, the two brothers, and Eugene Leonard. It's very distant. I couldn't just call them up out of the blue and say, hey, what are you guys doing? I'm coming down for dinner. But I am related to those people. So it's very special to me because my family, like I said, half of my family's from down there. So when I go down there, it just feels like home. Like I know people down there and I've talked to people. I've talked to Andrew Smith, a great person at the Flatwoods Monster Museum. But yeah, 2 incidences and possibly a third.
It's my understanding that they do not want visitors. Is that correct?
Yes, do not bother these people. They are, when I went onto that property, I was a younger man and a little more ballsy, pardon the language, than I am today. So because I wanted to see it, I wanted to get and there was no trespassing signs.
There is a way to get there without trespassing.
Yes.
Go up the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
That's the way we.
I went the other way.
Trespass coming back.
That's
what are they gonna do?
We're already leaving. We're already headed out. I just trespassed in the trespassed out. I wanted to get it done.
We're not going to encourage trespassing.
No, please,
There's not much left.
no, please respect other people. Please get their permission. I was young and stupid. I was like, I'm gonna do it. But don't be like me. Make sure you get the permission. If you can't, don't go. It's better to leave these people alone. Fred and Eddie May didn't talk to really anybody. Seth Breedlove, he talked to Fred. I believe he talked to both brothers, but that was hard enough. I tried to get in there and I couldn't do it. I'm like, I'm related. They're like, nah, you're just some yahoo. And I'm like, that doesn't mean we're not related because I'm some yahoo. It doesn't mean we're not related. I am a yahoo, sure.
Did they call you a yahoo though?
I wish they would have. It would have made the experience so much better.
All right, and then it looks like you had a question?
Yeah, explain to me the land between the lakes. You were talking about, it encompasses all the lore that you were just explaining there. You know, the Winnebago that was just completely destroyed, the people who were killed, and other people witnessed sightings, and there's multiple, not even just one document, many multiple documents. What is your take on that specific area of what's going on over there?
Is that you, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just real quick, I just wanna let you know, like in 2016, before I even knew Brian, it was probably a year before I met him, that's how I found out about Dogman, so I definitely would pick him. I went to a presentation at Beaver Creek Park, that was before, like I said, before I even knew them, 10 years ago, and that's where I first heard of Dogman. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, the land between the lakes, it is an area that has had traditionally a lot of dogman sightings, and of course, the massacre, if indeed it took place, okay, I'm on the fence about it. If you guys watched, Monster Quest, the new series, how many have watched Monster Quest, the new series? I think the very first or second episode did another, a tape from somebody getting killed in that area, a camper. So, again, that original report, I mean, I'm still on the fence about it, but I do believe there's been a lot of sightings up there. Also Bigfoot sightings too, not just Dogman. So it's a weird area, and best maybe take a weapon in just in case.
What lakes are you talking about?
It's called Land Between the Lakes, and I think it's Wisconsin, I believe, right?
Yeah, Tennessee is on the border.
It's Kentucky.
Yeah.
Tennessee, Kentucky.
Tennessee, Kentucky.
I think it borders.
Linda Godfrey was real popular.
Yeah, Linda Godfrey did a lot with that.
Say we're talking about werewolves, it was right between the rivers, and they were talking about, the Lugaroo and these thermal attacks that all these trappers had, and then when the commission came down, flooded here after the dam, then they started having all these, sightings. People have seen all these creatures. And there was like one on that one show, What Lurks Beneath. And and he had the one, I forget his name, and he was talking about how he did investigations down there, had rabbit calls, and he'd go out there in the middle of.
Oh, is that Barton Nunley, maybe? Barton Nunley?
Probably he had glasses on. He was.
It's probably Barton Nunley.
He's a retired officer. He went in and he showed the call. He played the call and he heard the rustling. He heard him come out. He heard the eye shine. I mean, he saw the eye shine. Heard the noise. He's like, hey, I gotta get. I'm in danger here. And I just wanted to know what was, if anyone had any, thoughts on that. Because what interested me of the Dogman was that Inch story.
Yeah, from Youngstown.
Yeah.
I talked to him.
Yeah, and that has everything you were talking about, as of being able to cloak itself as he would describe the creature coming into the refinery. He was able to walk past it. You wouldn't see it until it, went past the fire, but it cast the shadow and it was up and and it was on him in steps, just kind of like ready to pounce on him. You know what I mean? I just wonder what your takes were all on these incidents.
When we first started looking into the Dogman, we looked into it. Linda Godfrey, Dr. Linda Godfrey, she has several books out. One was Hunting the American Werewolf. And there was a section in there on the Shenango Valley Dogman, Mercer County. So we lived in Mercer County for 3 years. Never heard of it. Never heard of any Shenango dog, nothing. We read that book, and we went up there, and we had a conference up there, and people started coming to us, and that's how we got the lady who told us about the Shenango Valley Dog Boy. Okay, and we were able to get that on Monsters and Mysteries in America. But we believe that particular thing was a boy with hypertrichosis, which is called werewolf syndrome, who had some deformities, and we're even shown the house that he allegedly lived in. Now, it was funny, after that was shown that the issue was, or the episode was out, they tore their whole house down the following year, and it's not there anymore. So we don't believe this was a werewolf boy, because a couple years later, we were at the Erie MUFON conference, and I had a drawing of that one. So somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, that's the Erie Wolf Boy." "No, that's a Shenango Valley Dog Boy." No. He lived on Peach Street, and they had bars on the windows downstairs. And what was kind of interesting on that, the original drawing had him with, looked like he had an eye condition or drooped eye, red eyes, okay? Up in Erie, they had bars on the windows, and people would see him out in the bars. And it looked like he had an eye condition because they had a red light down there with him. So putting all these things together, we believe he went from Mercer County up to Erie and finished out his days until he passed in the, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s. So, but when I read that and I'm looking at this, I look at her and my wife, and she says, "What now?" I said, "I guess we got to start researching werewolves next." And she's looking at me like, "Oh my God." But I remember that. The phenomenon is weird. Something's there. They're seeing something. Barton Nunley himself said that he got a report from a farmer who was in a field, and the farmer's on his tractor. He sees this shimmer, kind of like you're driving down the road on a very hot day. You see that shimmer. He said this wolf-like creature stepped out, looked both ways, looked like he was sniffing the air, and then saw him on the tractor, because he wasn't like up close or anything, and it just kind of growled and stepped back and disappeared. So
Yeah, it's hard to put all this together, because there was another story that I heard was in Elmira.
yeah, the Palmyra Pack in Maine, yeah.
Yeah, and they went and they found that hill that was a burial mound or something, and they had that, and there was multiple Mothman attack on that house, you know?
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 of them, and they actually attacked the house, and I forget where we first saw that episode. If you type in Palmyra Pack, it'll come up and you can see the exact episode. There's been so many of these things that we've watched. I can't say which one it was on. I really don't remember. But type in Palmyra. I think it's Palymera, Palmyra Pack. It'll come up.
So if you didn't already know, the Dogman is known to be one of the more aggressive types of cryptids. I think a lot of people know that. And you know, there have been reports that sightings of the Dogman have kind of picked up, even locally. I saw somebody had reported this in Washington. Obviously, no one has verified that yet, but Washington, Pennsylvania is pretty close. So just, you know, be careful if there have been more sightings. I think you even had one from Greece. Was that?
I actually just got one from Greece, believe it or not. A lady contacted our group, and the drawing is over there, and it's a pretty good drawing. If you guys, when we're done, please come over, look at the cast, look at the drawings, and it's just really weird. It's just kind of like huddled behind the car and bump the car, and then they get out and it stands up, and then it turns and walks away. And one of the things we really try to push is drawings from people. Other than being there yourself and having the encounter, we believe unless you get a film or something like that, we believe that's the best way for the eyewitnesses to tell you what they saw. And yeah, please, before this is over, look at Chadwick's cast. I haven't even got to see him. I've been over here in the
I'm actively investigating a property where the people contacted me and wanted me to start looking around, and that's what they said, that they both seen a werewolf. They call it a werewolf. They don't call it a dog man. I don't know. I haven't seen anything yet. but they only live about 2 miles through the woods from where I found those tracks.
Yeah, and take a look at those tracks. They're very interesting, three-toed. So kind of similar to what Jamie and found. And please look before you leave, check all that out.
Okay, back in the back.
First of all, I have a huge problem with the do-your-own research. I have no doubt that the panel will be screwed. But the average person is going to go out there, going to find what they want, and going to go down rabbit holes that are just wrong and make this book look bad. And also, how many of these things do you think are misinterpretation as opposed to actual, as compared to actual sightings?
There actually have been a lot of in cases where it was like, well, I mean, like you're saying like, something might be a barn owl or, that was a dog over there. Or there were actually stories where people had, this does fall into the hoax category where they actually made up the sighting to kind of get some popularity in their town. So there have definitely been a lot of instances where it's like, oh, well, that didn't actually happen. One of the markers I would say of like, if you see one of your wolves or your dogmans is they might scrape your car. So that's actually something you might consider solid evidence. Maybe I'm going to check with one of the panelists to see if anybody wants to go ahead and expound upon that.
I would like to say that sometimes somebody will say it is an owl or something more natural, but it's not actually what they saw. They actually saw something that was paranormal. They actually saw a cryptid. They actually saw something that was unusual, but they want to pass it off as something that's normal, and it's not.
Do you think that happens quite a bit? That people see something?
I can't speak for. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They don't know exactly what they saw, so they're more like, this was this because that's the closest thing I can say, rather than say he was aware.
Well, I've actually had a dogman where someone came forward with a dogman experience, and what she told us, it wasn't a wolf, it wasn't something that was just a regular animal. It stood on 2 feet, 2 legs, it had gray skin, it had huge teeth. And it started out on all fours in a field, but then it stood upright and actually grabbed her towards her car. She was in a car, so this is another, for some reason, maybe they like cars, I don't know, but dogman, what she reported was a dogman actually reached out to grab her car, and it had hands like we do, but it had long nails. It had a long snout like a dog with the ears up here. And it was very broad shouldered with a very thin waist. It didn't have a lot of hair, but had gray skin. So I found her very credible.
I was just going to ask, from your experience, there was no reason for that.
Oh, I don't doubt her at all. She's actually a nurse, so she knows anatomy. And so I found her very credible. Yes.
I mean, I think to answer your question is that we kind of loosely said do your own research. And I think we meant that, give yourself permission to be right and to be wrong. And it's perfectly okay to be wrong. But I'm just encouraging people.
Okay, I understand. It's just in a lot of places when they say do your own research, a lot of people, they dive off into the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But is it the wrong direction? Do we know for sure it's the wrong direction? We don't know. Maybe they're interdimensional, maybe they're not. At least the cases that we show, the drawings that we show ourselves, we believe these to be credible cases. We have now we have a small one here. We have a very large form, which I can even show you later. I have one of them. Series of questions. We like to interview the person. If we can, we like to interview them in person. Sometimes that's not possible. Like one in Greece. Obviously, unless someone's going to pay for us to go to Greece. I've never been there.
I would trust you guys to produce more credible evidence.
It's very.
Dive down some rabbit hole.
It's very hard to find any evidence of something being there, even Bigfoot. So the ground here is very inconducive to prints. Unless you're by a creek or some place that's muddy, there's going to be a creature that's going to step on the leaf litter and stuff, and it's just going to start popping right back up. It's very hard to find concrete evidence. So again, I do understand what you're saying. I do.
I actually appreciate that for this map, that this is what we have, but I can't say for sure. I do appreciate that a lot. There's too many people like, I know this is fact. It's like you're presenting what you have. I appreciate that. That's why I like coming to this.
I'm a big fan of, I will tell you if it's something that like a hypothesis, I'll say, this is my hypothesis. Do I have evidence for it? I have no evidence for it, but it's a good talking starter point to see if maybe there can be some evidence pulled. But I try not to go into conversations and say, this is fact, because what I research, I can only go off, like, I research giants, I've never seen one, but I have compiled enough information together to put forth a solid argument for their existence, but at the same time, I have to back end that by saying, I don't know, and I don't have a problem saying I don't know. I have no problem.
That's awesome. My background is physics.
Nice.
I have a huge problem with a lot of scientists who are basically kind of like, because you know.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking these questions.
I do want to make a quick note of that too. I have a background in science and I'm a private investigator, so evidence is paramount for my career. And I do want to mention that there are a lot of experienced people going out there, but there are a lot of people who don't have the observation skills that an investigator would have. They're not going to pluck that hair out of a tree. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are things that people aren't going to see. Now, if I was actively, I don't have time, but if I was actively doing that, I might see things that other people don't, just because I'm trained mentally, both intuitively and physically to do field work. So a lot of my work deals with humans. I'm examining humans and vehicles, anything like that nature. Thefts, arsons, fires, fatalities. So I'm doing like that kind of stuff. But I feel like when I'm actually able to have more time to go in the field, like, claw marks in a tree, is there that hair? Because I'm used to looking for deer hair on a vehicle. And I feel like there might be a need for training on both a safety and an investigative style that can help people find this evidence that we are lacking. And I don't always find everything, but I am one of the top ones in my field, so I can at least say that. All right, so sorry about that.
Wait, can I say something to him?
Yeah.
I'm super excited that you said that you're into physics and that you question everything that you know. And I think that should be applauded, because in this community, there's a lot of us that are woo, and I think that with quantum physics, that's a lot of woo.
Yes.
And that's super exciting that you're saying that, because a lot of scientists will have this is black or white, and it's nothing else. And I really appreciate that.
Always discovering something new.
Yes.
Dark matter.
Yes.
Now, realistically, in quantum physics and astrophysics, we are seriously talking about multiple universes.
Yes.
In fact, in the constant factor of radiation, there's a code spot that we can explain that may be another universe touching us. So every time we do something more with space, I forget what it is, but there's some information they found. Farther away galaxies that are older than they should be. And that kind of throws a lot of our understanding of astrophysics into disarray, because these galaxies should not exist. They're too far away to be that old, but clearly they're there. So it's like we're always finding something that destroys our current knowledge, and we have to reinvent it. And that's another thing people don't understand about science. It's not just all there. We take what evidence we have and we keep building on it. It really upsets me when some talk about COVID, because we did the best we could with the knowledge we had. And as we went along, we learned more about it. They didn't lie. They did the best they could with the knowledge they had. And people don't appreciate that about scientists. And I think sometimes even some scientists don't appreciate that about scientists. They think you have everything. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
No, we actually, we have a former professor of chemistry, Dr. Paul Johnson. He works with our group, and he believes in a quantum theory. These creatures may not be out there until somebody's actually there to observe them. And this is a man of science, and he's thinking that And he actually has a couple books of them.
That was actually a question I was gonna ask you for. Do you think some of this exists because we observed it into existence?
It's possible.
There's
We go
none
there.
of this
That's
actually
totally right there.
exists until we're here to observe it.
Yeah, reality is kind of like not what you think. There was a, there was an article in a magazine we used to get, it's no longer published. It says that we perceive thousands of things every day. Our senses can only handle a small, and I forget what the percent, because I don't have the article with me, such a minute amount of them that we can't possibly, we're bombarded right now by thousands of things, different things. Oh, there's a flag moving out there, there's this. We can only focus on so many.
Yes, I can't process everything in this room.
Exactly.
I don't know that I'm even processing the same thing you are.
Exactly.
I don't even know that this color is the same color to you.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all about translation. How is it translated to each of us?
Yeah.
Yes. You have an internal map that you go from. That's what you can do.
Hey, we should get you up here. Just
Yeah,
no, I'm serious. I'm serious.
Let's
Give
talk
me a
about
hand.
strength.
Hi, you've been waiting, I'm so sorry.
No worries. My question is actually for Steve, so I'm not sure if he can hear me. Am
Okay,
I speaking loud enough?
I'm hearing you so far.
Okay,
Keep going.
great. Steve, I was really curious about your thoughts on the meteoric rise of popularity of Mothman. I feel that I didn't really hear about Mothman until maybe a few years ago, but it's so popular. There's merchandise, there's art, it's everywhere. It's kind of like the brother to Bigfoot. Bigfoot's everywhere. Everyone's heard of Bigfoot, and Mothman is just really coming up there. I find it really fascinating.
Still number two. Tell
Is there any way you can come up? There's a microphone up toward right, yeah. Shammy just pointed it out. I can hear, when everybody speaks to that, I hear them crystal clear.
Okay, can you hear me better now, Steve?
I hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. So sorry for the room to have to hear it again. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on the meteoric rise of popularity of Mothman. Because really just in the last few years, there's so much art and merchandise. It's a very popular creature, like a sibling to Bigfoot. It's everywhere. And I feel that a lot of people are talking about Mothman now. So I was curious about your thoughts on how its rise to popularity was so fast in the last few years.
Little brother to Bigfoot.
That was it.
You're asking about the merchandise?
Can you just tell
Rise
the
of popularity of
The rise and popularity of Mothman.
The popularity of Mothman. Well, it really started with the film. It came out almost a little over 20 years ago. When John Keel published the book, nobody gave a damn. It was he didn't actually want to write it. It happened about 8 years after when it first happened. He couldn't interest a publisher in the Mothman, and so about 7 or 8 years later, his editor came to him and said, "Okay, John, time to write a Mothman book." So he was reluctant. He got out his briefcase, he gathered together his notes and so forth, and he published the book. It only sold about 24 copies in West Virginia. It was just an absolute dud. And then, as the years went by, the people were forgetting about John Keel. John Keel, I believe, was 100 years ahead of everybody in some of his research. He didn't have all the answers, but he had some. So as time went on, it was that movie with Richard Gere that flipped the light switch. That triggered people's interest. And so when I'm at the Mothman Museum now, I get people from all over the U.S., all over the world. But it was that. And then you have Jeff Walmsley and Danny Bellamy, who runs the Tourist Bureau. They've had, I don't know how many dozen documentaries come through. And so, with more and more information coming out on the Mothman, that people have become naturally interested. I mean, it's a fascinating area. It's not just the Mothman that showed up. There were UFOs, the Men in Black. There were animal mutilations. There were just a lot of strange paranormal phenomena, not to mention Indrid Cold. Let's not go down that road right now. But so it is, it's like snowball. and people do find it fascinating. I have to tell you, there was one young man that came into the museum, and it was like his mecca. He was standing there with his mouth open, with his arms slack at his side, dumbfounded that he finally made it to the Mothman Museum. So, a lot of people, they have wedding proposals there by the statue. They celebrate their birthday, their anniversaries there. So it has, it just once that people learn about it, and starting with that film, then it just snowballed and people find it fascinating. And I think I don't buy any more Mothman t-shirts. I must have about 50 of them. So I'm just trying to chill out a little bit.
So as kind of a follow-up for the panelists here, what are your thoughts on rise your favorite cryptid? Because again, Bigfoot's been around. Everyone's heard of Bigfoot. Lots of people have now heard of Mothman. What about these lesser known cryptids? I was learning about cryptids today that I've never heard of, so I find that really fascinating.
I was excited about Jenny's pathology for sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
fire throwing little.
Cutest little thing probably in the world, right? As long as you don't make it mad.
So for me, with the Flatwoods Green Monster, I've seen it rise. Frank Fascino wrote a book, I've got it at the house. That was kind of like the intro for me, because like I said, I had family that were there. And, it comes and goes, it wanes, but then, I don't know how many people here play video games here, a little known game known as Fallout 76 comes out. Now, Fallout 76 has the Mothman. It now has Bigfoot, and it also has the Flatwoods Green Monster, as well as the Grafton Monster. West Virginia is a wild state. West Virginia is a wild state. But I love it. I love seeing the rise of these things because now people aren't afraid to come up with accounts that they've seen these things. But it's awesome. And the Mothman is one of those ones. It's such a crazy case. It's one of the craziest cryptid cases I've ever read in my life. The Flatwoods Green Monster was a kind of I won't say a flash in the pan, but it was like one instance that didn't have the ripple effect that Mothman did. A whole bridge collapsed and people died, and that's also counted in with that legend. So it has that wrapped in. Then you have the Men in Black showing up. The only thing that showed up for the Green Monster was the army, which, okay, I get that. But you had Men in Black showing up. You had just all these crazy things happen around it. And I think the more craziness that happens around something, once somebody gets into it, and especially in this day and age where information comes right on your cell phone, you can just be like, oh, who's the Mothman? Oh my, what? And then you end up in a rabbit hole. Because,
AI.
Yeah, and
everything.
well, then Mothman was supposedly sighted in Chicago, supposedly sighted in Kiev. He's sighted in all these places. I don't know how true a lot of that is because I take some of that with a grain of salt. But I think the rise in popularity is just because it's cool. Like, we all live a normal life. We all get up, we do what we have to do, we go to bed. We don't have reality shape-shifting adventures like in comic books or on TV shows. So this is our way of having those adventures in real life. It's something that oh man, I hate reading this, fiscal year report, but when I get off, I get to go look at Mothman, or I get to go put a quarter in Mothman's butt, which seems to be the thing that people do with that statue. That's weird. But I think the rise of popularity...
Hold on a minute. We're very dignified in West Virginia. We call it the shiny hiney. As you know, dignity is our middle name in West Virginia.
But I think that the rise of media, the rise of entertainment, the rise of just, unfortunately, like Christine said, AI, the rise of all these things gets people interested. The Grafton Monster, I didn't know about until like 4 years ago. And that's one of those ones I'm on the fence about. It sounds just like a trash monster, like it's made out of just trash. So that was strange to me. But it's all these other little ones, like the Pudgewuggy. Did I say that right? I don't want to get it mad and start throwing fire at me. The Loveland Frog Monster, very recent. All of a sudden, they're having a whole festival regarding this frog monster. The Melonheads. The swamp, yeah. Is that the one that cries? Is that the one that cries?
I don't think it's that one. I think it's a fake made up.
It's sad.
I think it was one of those kids who would like emo music and they just made a cryptid out of the song.
I cried because I'm ugly.
Hey, just remember the Abaguchi from West Virginia.
Oh, that's Kathleen and Ryan's favorite.
Hey, I'd like to, just to tell Robert something, he says about a boring life. Me, Scott, and Jeff, we dress up as superheroes and fight crime and weird.
I mean, that makes sense. It's you.
I would have lost every round, but.
We fight, yeah.
I would be upset if you didn't do those things. I'd be upset.
If I could add something, okay. Just be very cautious about the Chicago Mothman claims. Some of the original sightings came from the same IP address. There's much more to that. I won't go there. The Flatwoods Monster, if you consult Nick Redfern's book, Monster Files, he talks about a magician, I forget his name, but he allied with with World War II and with the Army to create subterfuge to freak out the locals in different areas. In the hills of Italy during World War II, they created some kind of a device that, when you look at the drawings, looks a heck of a lot like the Flatwoods Monster. I don't know if there's any real connection or not, but it's worth checking out that book. And it didn't just throw another wrench in the works.
I miss Nick Redfern. He used to do a lot of presentations. He did Mothman Festival, I think 2015.
Yeah.
That was like 11 years ago. It's one of the first places I saw him, and he's an excellent
He's
speaker.
dug into a lot of the government documents and so forth in several books. And he's, through the freedom of information, he's uncovered a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, I miss him being around and doing stuff. My friend sprayed sunscreen on him at the Mothman Festival a couple of years ago. It's funny. He was right next to us, so it was kind of.
Are you going to be there this year, Christine?
Unfortunately, I don't have anyone to help me with the table, so I had to withdraw. But I did ask them to keep me in mind for next year. I still have a lot of Mothman shirts and things like that. And I just want to say something that Brian's not going to like. I'm Team Mothman. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I grew up hearing that. When I was a kid, we were sitting in the car and my dad would tell us, because there was, all of us in the car and we were driving on road trips, and my dad would tell us, the Mothman's going to get you. And he would tease me based on where I was sitting. He gets the person in the middle seat in the back. That was me. So here I am scrambling over my siblings, like, let me by the window. And then he was like, oh no, I was wrong. It's the person that's behind me. So I literally grew up hearing about those, and my mom would tell me giants lived in the woods, so a lot of imaginative things when I was little. But was there anything else? Any other questions, or anybody want to add to anything? Oh, go ahead.
It's not so much a question, but you were saying before, when you talk about these things, people look at you like you're crazy. Now, people will defend the Bible all day long, and I'm not trying to start a debate about religion, but if I look at you guys and say I saw a unicorn, you might call me crazy. But if you read the Latin Vulgate Bible or the King James Bible, it talks about unicorns on several different points.
Look up the horns on Moses. Look up the horns on Moses. There's a statue. I'm trying to figure out where it's at. I'm drawing a blank. You guys can Google this. But it's a statue with the horns on Moses. Yes, sir.
I went to Notre Dame, and there's a statue of Moses on the campus. And he's like this. So your football's the first time.
Right.
But it looks like his hair is shaped in horns. Really bizarre, especially on a Catholic university campus.
Yes. And like I said, they look at it strange, but and that's a good point. There's a lot of like Leviathan. You don't talk about Leviathan a lot, but Leviathan is a giant sea monster in the Bible. And I believe in sea monsters. Has anybody here been to the bottom of the ocean? Not one person.
Oh, that's very unexplored. Yeah, I think, what was it, like 5% that was explored? Yeah. I'd like to go under the water.
I'm good. I'm not trying to go down there. I don't want to get caught by whatever giant creatures down there. You get caught in a whale, and you're just jumping at this point. No, thank you. I like being on land where my feet. I'll remember that. I'm like, she told me to jump on the back. I'll
Yeah,
jump
make
on
sure, I don't know how long your oxygen tank will last, probably depends on how far down the whale goes.
Who said I have an oxygen tank?
You need one if you go down there and explore, you can submarines, just do submarines. All right, was there anything else, any questions from the in-person audience or the live stream? Okay, oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I have to go down the rabbit hole, since it's slightly off topic. But what does the panel hear or know of in the community about these missing scientists? Those 10 scientists that were involved.
Yeah, the UFO scientists that they've been just disappearing. I mean, 1 or 2, okay, things happen. 10? Is it now 11? Last I heard it was 10, so now there's an 11. There shouldn't have been a 1, but 1 or 2 people die, things happen. People go, you get drunk on a weekend and you're waking up at your friend's house. All right? 11 scientists that know about UFOs are gone. Why? And what did they know? Because the more information you know, the more dangerous of a person you are. You can look at any file, you can look at any UFO experience, anywhere things happen. If you go to those properties or you are found on those properties, you might not come back. Why? What's the reasoning behind it? And these are 11 men that were intelligent. These weren't just some, like people like to think alien abduction cases are all just people that don't know up from down. These were men of science. And now they're gone. Something doesn't add up.
I just wondered if the community that you guys are members of, if you hear each other.
Well, one of the new things that's coming out is that they were all working on an anti-gravity system.
Yep.
And it could be the Chinese taking them out. Because we're eventually probably gonna go to war with these guys, folks. It might not happen now, but I have a feeling it's gonna eventually happen. And they don't want our top scientists to have that information.
I think it's the CIA taking them out. I mean, that's what.
I mean, it could be either one, but that's just something that's thrown out there that, believe it or not.
Well, a lot of our most experienced individuals in this community have been passing away lately, and it's been a lot, and that's one thing that's kind of, I guess, been troubling to a lot of people too. I think Mr. Robert Khalil had 3 people, 2 or 3 in the same week that he was friends with.
One of them was a woman.
Yeah.
A woman scientist. She, before World War, prepared with her mother that they'll be coming to see. And they did.
And the one guy left his house with a gun.
He would have did.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder at what point does this become a problem? And nobody's gonna do nothing about it.
That's the problem. Nobody will speak up about
Nobody's
it.
gonna do nothing about it because they don't want to be next.
Yeah.
But we live in a society though that the government doesn't have to, if you don't know the knowledge, the government doesn't have to take you out. They just have to embarrass you. They just have to make you in the court of public opinion look like an absolute monster.
Yeah.
And everything, I don't care if you figured out how to turn lead to gold with the Philosopher's Stone. The government will make you look like the worst person on the planet, and that discredits everything you've done.
But we're kind of discrediting them now because we're finding out with the Epstein files that they're the monsters.
Well, the government's been a monster for a very long time. This is just the first time we're actually able to see them be monsters.
Yeah.
They've been a monster long before any of us in this room were born, long before our great grandparents were born. It's deep. It runs deep. It runs deep. The banking system runs deep. And I'll leave it at that because I don't want to disappear next.
I know, right? Did anybody have anything else before we move on to our giveaways?
Just one really quick thing, Christine. I think we should get Brian Seach hired into the UN as an interpreter.
Yes.
Yes.
I second it.
I'd rather do that than what I'm doing now, Steve.
All right, so for these giveaways, the first one is based on luck. So if you could just be careful when you get out from your seats, one of you has a creepy cryptid on the bottom of your chair. Now, just don't knock each other over. You want to go ahead and get up and look.
Somebody's joints were cracking, I heard that.
Should I take the paper off?
Yeah, that's fine. We found a creepy cryptid. Yeah, I just taped it under. I taped it under one of the chairs. I do that every event. You're gonna win that tote there. That's you can see from there. You get one of those, and it glows in the dark green. It's always good to charge them. Everything that I make pretty much is glow in the dark. You just want to put it under some light, and then it'll charge it up. The second giveaway is for who was most engaged. Now this is going to be a tough one, so I might have to ask for some help from the panelists.
The guy in the back, he's gone, I guess, isn't he?
Oh.
That's weird, isn't it? We just talked about those 11 scientists.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? He may have run to the restroom. This has been a long event, so we'll give him a couple minutes, and if not, we'll have to pick a secondary one, okay? Does anybody have a secondary winner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy with the hat.
Okay, if our scientist does not return, we'll go ahead and award that. All right, so I want to reiterate that there are table lists here where panelists have items for sale. So after our memorial, you can certainly go ahead and peruse, grab some business cards and so forth. There's also going to be some casts. We do have an optional donation box over here. It's the Alien. So you're welcome to get an envelope and write where you would like that to go. It can either go to the library or to the team of panelists, and that is completely optional. We will also be having the memorial for Fred Salug at this time. If anyone would like to say a couple words, who would like to go first? Come on up, Raymond. This is Raymond Keller. If you don't already know him, he is one of our friends and researchers who did a lot of books with Fred. And I remember a long time ago, Fred Saluga asked me to help him write some books, but I have one of the most demanding schedules I've ever seen. So I'm usually in 3 different states. So it's hard for me to sit down and work with people so personally. But I'm very happy that he did find Raymond and work with him. I did also want to mention that Fred Saluga, I'm so honored that he let me do the introduction to a UFO and law enforcement book between Raymond Keller and Mr. Saluga. So Raymond, if you wanted to go ahead and it's up to you. If you want to sit up here and do it, I don't want you to have to stand. Yeah, if you want to come on up. I've known Raymond Keller for a very long time. People don't know that, but I call him Uncle Ray sometimes.
Thank you, Christine. And thank you all the panelists and attendees. Thank you for coming here today and organizing this splendid event. I first met Fred back in 2015 at a meeting in Butler, PA. And it was just about 4 years ago that we started working on books together, and this is one of them. I have several of the books back there at the table. Fred and I had a lot of fun traveling. We went as far as Canada. I remember on that trip, we were coming up through Michigan to cross over at Sault Ste. Marie. And on the way over there, we were really excited because on the right side of the road on top of this hill, we saw what appeared to be a Bigfoot. And we were very excited, but somebody was just putting up this big giant cardboard model. And so that was pretty funny. And well, we went up there and we were visiting with James Borg and the Euphoria Chronicles. And Fred had more mobility than me, and he was really brave to go out in the woods. And he and James found a real Bigfoot nest back there, and he took some pictures of it and everything. I don't know if he posted them. But it was such a great honor to work with Fred. I really don't know what on earth he saw in me, as by asked me to co-write books with him. But it was a great honor, one of the greatest privileges in my life. And I know that Fred is with us, he's watching us, and been paying close attention to this meeting from the other side of the veil. And I know he's now with the angels. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So Fred was a good mentor for all of us, especially the people who've known him the most. Boy, we owe him a debt of gratitude, we really do. Wouldn't be here without him. And before I go, I mean, I could say a lot more, but no. So Fred had a story he always wanted told, and I'm gonna try to say it in Fred's terms how he said it. So he said, "When I die, I'm gonna go up. There's gonna be a ship. I'm gonna go into this room. There's gonna be a table and some chairs. In walks a crab, sits down. In walks a Bigfoot, sits down. In walks a Mothman, sits down. In floats a ghost, he just floats there.
I love that part.
The alien with 2 out of his 3 fingers goes, Fred, you were this close. That's it.
So I just want to say the first time that Jenny and I met Fred, we were on a camping trip, and Fred was very loud in the morning. And he drove in and he was playing the Everly Brothers, and he had this long story about how women love that song. It was Unchained Melody, but Fred was just so funny, and Jenny and I, he was very endearing to us. And I remember we were somewhere, and people think that I made up the "What the Fred," but Fred made that up. Fred was talking to Jenny, and he's like, "What the Fred?" And we thought that was super cute. But Fred was one of those people that just unabashedly told you exactly what he thought. And he was kind of an equalizer in the field. We call him the John Wayne of the Bigfoot field. Sometimes Clint Eastwood, sometimes who else? But Fred had a lot of character, and that's what made him so endearing to a lot of people. And he really was a person that sought the truth. And his background was he was a detective, and I think that that's pretty amazing that he was in this field doing the work that he's doing. Interviewing people with Bigfoot, UFOs, all of it. So he might have had been a joke in his community where he worked, but he was never a joke with us. Fred was 100% sincere, sweet, and
I don't know if I can do this or not because
We can
my dad-
switch to Steve if you want.
No, it's
Okay.
It's okay. My dad passed away not that long ago, and Fred was family to me. He went first before my dad, but it was hard because I both of them were gone. I'm sorry. I love you, Fred. I love you.
We're gonna go to Steve real quick. I know Steve didn't know him too well, but Steve always can brighten us up with some humor.
Go ahead and ask what Steve wants to say.
You gotta say it, Brian.
Steve, do you have a few words to say about Fred?
I didn't know Fred well, but he always treated me very well. And he, in one of our expeditions, he gave me a Bigfoot cast, a footprint. And I'd like to say I could put my hands on it right now, but it's somewhere in my basement, which is less organized than the warehouse at the end of Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. But yeah, he was and what was so much fun is to watch him go back and forth with Bruce Harrington. Oh, good Lord. That was entertaining. And it's too bad those incidents are not on YouTube somewhere.
Thank you so much, Steve. I first saw Fred in 2016, the same event that I saw Brian Seach. I did not know them at that time, so I met Fred about 2017. And, he was always an interesting character. As we know, he's feisty Fred. Everybody knew him. And what he did for a lot of us was, give a lot of opportunities. There were times where he asked us if we wanted to speak at events. I had taken kind of a time off from doing public speaking. I did these panels, 13 years ago. I took some time off from that. I did PI talks. And then when we, whenever I met him, he's the one that kind of started getting a lot of us into doing these presentations. And also gave the opportunity to do a MUFON presentation at one of their events. And, I'm ever so grateful for that. There were times where Fred would be mad at you. I've said this before. He'd be mad at you, and then, a month later, it's okay. He was feisty, and, he might call me and say, Christine, what's up with this question on the panel? And I'd be, annoyed, but I'd be still love him, but... And then he would complain about someone, and then, or he'd say, why didn't you call me back in time? I'm like, I'm driving through so many states. But, I miss him because he was the person that I, if I had to complain about something, I would be like, hey, Fred, and vice versa. We'll go ahead, Robert.
So there's two people that I credit with me being here today. One of those is Bob Schultz. The other is Fred Saluda. Without those two, I wouldn't be doing this. I remember talking to Fred, and he was the most curmudgeonly old dude I've ever met. And I love that about him, because he was a real person. He didn't come on any airs. He was who he was, and I highly respect that. And I was just talking, I said, man, I'd love to speak. I'd love to do what they do. And this was at the Butler conference. Kathleen, you were there. That was that same one. And lo and behold, he made it happen. He said, do you want to speak? I said, I've always wanted to speak. I love to talk. That's what I do best. But he said, do you want to do that? I said, yes. And every chance I saw him, he always had a new question for me about giants. Always. Because he was like, you're one of the few people I know that are big into this, that research this, that have put the effort and the time. I was throwing up articles that he had never seen, that a lot of people didn't know about at these presentations, and he would always come up to me and say, hey, he would start adding little things to the conversation to me to get my brain moving in a different direction from what I was thinking. And I don't know him like a lot of you do. I know him as, and it hurts me a little bit because I'll never get to know who he was as a whole, because I live so far away from most of you. I live a solid 2.5 hours away. But Fred gave me that opportunity, and I'll always owe him for the rest of my life for that. He helped me to fulfill a dream I'd always have, talking to people about stuff I love. And for that, I will always be for the rest of my life and beyond, when I see him in the next life, eternally grateful to a man who helped me achieve a dream. So God bless you, Fred, and I'll see you when we get there. I'll see you when I get there.
All right, did anybody else? Robert Khalil, I know you had a very close, also, and Terry and Aurora, everybody.
You want me just to say something from here?
Okay, hold on just 1 second. Did you want to come up to a microphone?
Yeah, sure. I can.
Did you want to come up too? You could come on this side.
I really valued Fred so much as a friend and a mentor. Sam was also a part of our UFO group. We were part of a monthly UFO group, and Fred would be there every month cracking jokes, and he was the life of the meeting. And honestly, since he's been gone, the meeting honestly hasn't been the same. I love all the people there, but it's just not the same without Fred. And also, I've been involved in 3 of these conferences with Christine. I was a panelist at one that helped live stream the other ones, and Fred was the same life of the party here. And I'll never forget the time him and Jimmy got into an argument, and we all started laughing. So he was just like that. You know what I mean? You never knew what Fred was going to say. He was just an amazing person, and I can't speak highly enough about him, honestly.
Okay.
He's been here all day. He's hounding me to talk, so I have to talk, or he's not going to, or he's not going to let me alone. First of all, Fred said, you did a good job, Brian. He's saying that everybody did a good job. You guys made a lot of good points, and he's very proud of it. He wants to thank everyone for remembering him and saying his name, like what Fred. And he's proud of all of you. And he's saying, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Fred.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Christine, I was Fred's investigation partner. And we had gone in 2021, we had to go up to the New York borders to do an investigation of the UFO sighting, and on the way back, we stopped at the Kinzu Bridge, where there had been an episode on the Bigfoot hunters. They came to Kinzu to do an episode. So I said, Fred, let's swing by there. I took a picture of him on the end of the bridge. I don't know how we could transfer that to put it on the screen, but we took a picture of him on the bridge, on the end of the bridge, and just over his shoulder is the location of where the Bigfoot sighting occurred. And I was asking if anybody could enable us to put it on the screen.
I'm not quite sure. Do you think that can be added in on the live stream? Because
I can make it part of the thumbnail or something.
yeah, that can be like a third. Just like a third box on there.
There are two pictures, one of him at the end of the bridge, and the other is, I took a picture over the end of the bridge, down about 300 feet to the ground, where the Bigfoot sighting had occurred, and it was spotlighted on national television. And that was a nice incident for Fred and I to do that. But he would also scream at me about chewing ice.
I probably would have too. I'm sorry. Especially sometimes people chew really loud. Like, I told when I went to see Fred in the hospital, I told him, I said, you cannot leave. You're the only other PI in this community that I know. So he probably was like, what's she talking about?
Oh, yeah. I'll say something early. He passed in his sleep. I left the hospital, Brian, you know this, I left the hospital that day at about 12:45, and Leah called me at about 12:25, 12:30, and she said that he had died in his sleep. She wanted to wake him up before I went, and I said no.
She said 1:33, I think, was what she posted.
Anyway.
Thank you so much.
That's all I got.
Anybody else? All right, well, that concludes our panel. Everybody, thank you so much for coming, and make sure you stop over and see what people have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the Cryptids panel. Thank you for tuning in, and especially, even if you were just kind of watching off and on. I know the sound got a little funky for a little bit, but yeah, I'll try to do a little bit of tinkering to see what I can do before posting the replay. But if not, I'll just put a disclaimer in the description saying, just warning, the sound gets a little funky. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will have like a short vlog on this, and there's more to come. I would like to do more live streams like this too. So, all right, thank you so much for watching, and I will, see you in the next video. As always, stay safe, stay fierce, and stay spooky. Bye.
Researching.
Or like that's a chair. I know
Yeah,
you know my chair.
So you gotta look at it from